doing? I can see there are a lot of people on the chat already. Welcome. So great to see you here. I am just going to make sure that you can all see and hear me. So drop a plus in the chat if you can see and hear me, and we will jump right in. So great to see great to see so many of you. I've been on for the last few hours just answering questions. Hopefully I've managed to kind of field the basic stuff. But just for a quick reminder, if you're here, then you should be doing Macbeth, and we're going to be doing Macbeth from 4 till 5:30. Thank you so much for all the pluses in the chat. I can see that I am functioning. And then we're going to be looking at A Christmas Carol from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Okay, so just be aware of that. That is the order of events for today. Now, if you are going to be doing Romeo and Juliet first, then you should be on the stream with Alex. Okay. Okay, so head over to Alex's stream if you're actually doing Romeo and Juliet. And then if you're doing Romeo and Juliet and A Christmas Carol, then just head on back at 5:35. Okay. So I just wanted to let you know that this is the overall structure of the day. This is the overview. This is what we're going to be covering over the course of today. So if you have a look at the timing, 4 till 5:30, so that is obviously now until 5:30, we are focusing on Shakespeare across the two streams. I'm going to be looking at Macbeth, which is why you should be here if you're doing Macbeth. And if you are doing Romeo and Juliet, you should be with Alex now. We're then at 5:30 to 5:35, we're going to have a quick break, so 5 minutes or so. And this is also where you change over if you need to move between the two streams. Okay, so this is here and this is there. Okay, and then we're going to be looking at the 19th century novel, which is our focus for this afternoon. 5:35 until 7, so about an hour and a half. I'm going to be doing A Christmas Carol here, and Alex is going to be looking at A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay, so for each session that we do, for each of these 90-minute sessions that we do, we're going to be having a look at content and context. So we're going to review the plots. We're going to link it out to a couple of AO3 things. I can see a few questions in the chat about the workbook. It's in the description. I would recommend printing it if you have an opportunity to, but you are not obviously required to. It's just there so you can keep a record of today. This is also going to be recorded, so you can jump in. The link to the other stream, so Alex's stream, is also in the description. So if you've realized you're in the wrong one, easily done. Jump over to Alex's so you can look at Romeo and Juliet now. So that's in the description. We will also be covering T10 10 key quotations, doing a deep dive into an extract or two, and we're going to be looking at planning essays and thesis modeling. So when I say thesis, I'm essentially meaning your first paragraph and first AO2 and AO3. All right, we happy with that? Someone's just asked about if this is higher or foundation. There's no higher and foundation for English. It is just open. Okay. A couple of FAQs because a lot of questions were coming up in the last few hours. So I quickly threw this one together. These sessions are geared towards AQA. Now, if you are doing edXL, there's a similar, obviously a similar structure in what's being covered. OCR, Educas, etc., etc. That most schools are going to be covering Shakespeare tomorrow, but obviously one of the examples does Shakespeare later. So if you need to hop off and have a look at some of my pre-recorded videos for the other sections of the exam, then do feel free. But today, obviously, we're looking at Macbeth and A Christmas Carol here, Romeo and Juliet, and Jekyll and Hyde with Alex. Trivage, where is Romeo and Juliet? That will be with Alex right now. So if you look at the link in the description to group 2, you'll be able to find it, okay? So WJEC, Angelique, and Educas, again, there's lots of crossover, but I just thought that you guys should know that this is the focus for this one, okay? Crazy got 2.4K. That's wild, man. That is indeed crazy. It is your namesake. So if you're wondering when the exams are, I'm not going to say you're cooked if you don't know that your exam is tomorrow, but there is an exam tomorrow, paper 1, Monday the 12th of May. And then the next paper, you've got basically 8 days. We're going to be doing a CRAM on the 19th of May in preparation for that one as well. Will this be recorded? Yes, it'll be recorded. You can check it out on the same link and come back to it. For those of you asking about different exam boards, the content will be the same. If you're doing Macbeth, if you're doing A Christmas Carol, if you're doing Romeo and Juliet, if you're doing Jekyll and Hyde, then the content that we cover will be relevant to you. But in terms of the structure of the exam question, less so. Okay, I have taught and marked for all of the exam boards, but I will be completely honest with you, this has to be AQA focused because there are too many for us to be able to go in all of those different directions. Okay, there will be breaks. Well, yeah, there will be a break between each session. So at 5:30, there will be a 5-minute break, which is when you can obviously take a bit of time and also jump between streams if you need to. Eliza has just asked, have you got any vids for An Inspector Calls? Yeah, I've got loads of An Inspector Calls videos on my YouTube. If you just go to the channel, there's lots of pre-recorded videos on context, on key themes, on the characters, on the plot, all of those sorts of things. Also practice questions. Eve Cooper, let's see the guns. The guns, they never leave me. They're built in. M4X, or is that M4 Max, probably. How long will context take? We're going to be embedding context as we do. We're not going to do a separate session on it. If you guys were at the ERC, you will have seen that we spent a lot of time on context for that one. So you can always head back for that one. What do the mods do? Well, we have some super mods in the chat. They will be answering any technical questions like how do I get onto the other stream, etc. Keeping things respectful. So we're going to be nice to each other and obviously efficient. A couple of key things. For those of you asking about different texts, we only are able to cover 2 texts per section because we're only 2 English teachers. Okay. JV, how old am I? I am in my 30s. We'll leave it at that. We're going to use the chat to contribute suggestions and ask questions, please nothing else. So I can see some people are spamming some silliness. You'll obviously just be timed out and you will not be able to write. So for those of you asking about different texts, we can only literally do the ones that we are doing, but we do have resources for some of the other texts if you want to obviously jump in and have a look at those. I will talk about predictions in a second, so hold on to that question. Use chat to contribute suggestions or nothing else, blah, blah, blah. No spam, no beef. I'm a vegetarian. Keep questions relevant to the text or exam unit currently being addressed. Any I miss, I will try and address in the Q&A section of each session. And then use the workbook to record any notes, practice skills and questions in. It will be a revision guide for later. And when I say later, I mean literally like later tonight or in the morning. For those of you saying start, these questions people ask all the time, so I'm just trying to make sure that we cover them now. Don't worry, it has literally only been like a minute that I've been on this page. Remember your humanity, so be nice to each other, be nice to me. I will try and answer as many questions as possible, but as you've noticed, there's like 2,000 people on the stream, so question answering will be limited by the limitations of being a human being. All right, so we're going to be preparing for tomorrow's exam, revising key content, engaging with mock papers. Let's jump in. Quick introduction. Some people were like, does this guy know what he's talking about? Hopefully I do. I'm a fully qualified English teacher, spent over 10 years as a teacher in schools up and down the country. I studied English at the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, got a master's from both, doing a PhD in education. 9 years of experience working alongside exam boards. I have been an examiner for AQA, OCR, EdXL, and EduCAS. So hopefully that means I know what I'm doing. All right, let's jump into Macbeth. Malik, how long will this be? We're going to spend 90 minutes on Macbeth and then 90 minutes on A Christmas Carol. All right. So many people here, yep. People asking about higher and foundation. My guys, there's no higher and foundation for English. It's just open. Aisha, we know you're qualified. Thank you, buddy. Flex, yeah, flexing. I'm not currently an examiner this year, no, because I will be working through the summer when examiners are marking these things. I'll obviously be working for my InSpace. All right. So, Macbeth, it is time. Let's go. Okay, so I want you guys to jump in with contributions. We're filling the gaps. We're going to try and make some links out to key quotations. We're going to try and make some links out to key aspects of context. So, straight away, the play opens on a Scottish what? Let's go, let's go. All right, all right. Anyone going to fill in that first gap? The play opens on a Scottish what? Someone said health, and I think that means heath. Yes. Okay, so it is barren. Okay, where 3 watts gather in what weather? What are they, guys? Not soldiers? Nope. What are they? Loads of people saying battlefield, which is totally fair. It is a battlefield, yeah. 3 witches. Okay, good. I feel like there might be a lag here, guys, because, yeah, absolutely. 3 witches gather in what weather? And Stormy Kai is saying, for sure. All right, stormy weather. Significance of that, guys. What's the significance of it being stormy weather? What does that do for our audience expectation? What are the audience expecting? Yes, absolutely. Very nice. Yeah, keep these contributions coming. So it is indeed stormy weather. The audience are obviously therefore going to be expecting, they're going to be expecting drama, potentially expecting evil, supernatural. It lays the foundation for those things. It's very much of the Gothic genre, but as you guys should know, the Gothic genre didn't come around until 1700s, so it's a bit premature, but we do still expect bad things in the dark. All right, they plan to meet the eponymous, but as yet unknown, whom? What's his name? You're absolutely right, guys, as well, to point out that this is pathetic fallacy. That is how the audience comes to expect bad things. Nice use of that terminology. We can slot it in wherever. What are we going to say? What's his name? The eponymous. That should be a big clue for us. Nice, nice, nice. Well done, you guys. It is, of course, Macbeth. Some people are asking about the word eponymous. It means titular, okay? The person that the play is named after, okay? So lots of people asking that one. Titular is really important that he is eponymous, right? Macbeth, because we come to expect him. Again, the audience, they expect the main character. Right, we're zooming through this, guys. Let's go, let's go. Meanwhile, King what? What's his name? Keep him coming. Titular S means the one that the play is named after. All right, guys. King Duncan. Absolutely. Duncan uses indirect characterization, Josh has just said. Interesting thought. Receives news that the same Macbeth, a noble and valiant general, has defeated both the what? What is MacDonald? You don't need to remember that character so much as remember what he represents. What is he to the story? What does he do? For those of you who voted for King James there, King James is a real life character, not a not a fictional one. Thank you, guys. Loads of people saying traitor in the chat. Okay, so he is a traitor. Okay, beautiful stuff. Thank you so much. And the invading what? Who was it that was invading? What's the name of the enemies? Thank you. Alice has said Norwegians. Good. Anyone else want to agree, disagree? Eden, and anyone else asking if this is going to be recorded? Yeah, it is being recorded. You can access it from the same link. All right. Well done, guys. It is the Norwegians. Mostly irrelevant moving forward in terms of context. The Brits didn't have much to do with Norway at the time. Impressed, Duncan rewards Macbeth with the title Thane of what? What is it? What is he awarded with? A title. He gets promoted. Beautiful stuff, yes. Loads of you pointing out that he is the Thane of Cawdor. Nice. Those of you saying Thane of Fife, that is in fact Macduff, so let's not get confused there. Which is an ironic piece of foreshadowing given that the previous Thane, right, was a traitor. That was MacDonald, okay? He gets MacDonald's title as a traitor, and he gets the same title as a traitor, okay? Given that the previous Thane was a traitor, Macbeth is destined to what to? What's he going to do? Loads of people still asking about Foundation High. We don't have that in English, you guys. Good, yeah, he's destined to betray two. Beautiful stuff, you guys. Well done, smashing it. All right. As Macbeth and his friend what? What's the name of Macbeth's friend that he's returning from battle with? We're zooming through the plot, guys. I don't want to spend too long on plot because you guys have been studying it for 1, 2, maybe even 3 years. We're just going to kind of refresh our memories, boost that confidence by refreshing it. Okay, so it's Macbeth and his friend what? Nice one, guys. Everyone's saying Banquo. A couple of interesting spellings of Banquo, including Bangui, which I think is a major upgrade. But anyway, Banquo. They return from battle. They encounter the witches, who greet Macbeth with 3 titles. All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of what? So this is his original title. What was his original title, you guys? What are we saying? His original title. Thank you, Adriana. First to answer there. You're absolutely correct. Glamis, spelled Glamis. Glamis. Hail to thee, Thane of what? Well, we just talked about this new title, so that one's nice and easy. Cawdor. And then the big one. What is he going to become? This is kind of the whole point of the play. The whole reason he starts getting ideas above his station is because he is promised by these weird sisters that he will become something hereafter. What is it? Guys, I realize there is a lag, so do forgive me if I'm still talking about things after you've answered them. There's a little bit of a delay there. Nice one. People are starting to say it now. Who will become king hereafter? Of which only the first... Okay, so we can work that one out nice and easily. Glamis is accurate. Okay, so this is Act 1, Scene 3 by now. They also predict that Banquo's what will be kings. Now, careful with your wording here. Careful with your wording here. Thank you, Nova9. Yeah, so someone said Fleance, which is not quite true. Someone just said, I'm not forgiven for the lag. Fair enough. Descendants. Okay, right. The best answer that I've seen so far is descendants because it is not his sons. Okay. Okay. It is not his sons. Now, what's the significance of this, guys? Let's make a little AO3 connection here. Little AO3 connection here. What is the obvious link here about Banquo's descendants? Not his son, because Fleance does escape, but my guy doesn't become king at the end, if you'll note. Why is it his descendants? And this is crucial, because the wording is you will get kings, as in, your bloodline will represent kings. What are we saying? King James, nice one. So the real-life King James, who was the king on the throne at the time that Shakespeare was writing this play, he believed himself to be the true descendant of the real Banquo. Okay? So all of these characters were based, apart from probably the witches, were based on real life characters from history. And James I, he claimed to be a descendant of the real life Banquo. Okay? Now, why would Shakespeare seem to be confirming this? Because he seems to confirm it in the play, because he's saying, right, if Fleance escapes and his descendants are going to become kings one day, and oh look, our king on the throne is a descendant of Banquo. Why would he do that? Why would Shakespeare do that, thinking about his king? What's the relevance of that? What are we thinking? Duha, my friend. How's Hillcrest treating you, buddy? To impress the king, yes, exactly. Someone said sycophantic, which is great. Yeah, we're going to go with flattery. Flattery, and why would flattery be so relevant to him? You're absolutely right. Loads of you saying to impress the king, to flatter the king, to get the king on his side. Why was it? Ingratiate is another fantastic word, Aki. What's the relevance there? Okay, so someone just said, I think it was Sijmal. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. He works for the king as well. Someone else has said he had the king's patronage, which meant that the king, James I, he renamed Shakespeare's company the King's Men. Okay, so he essentially employed Shakespeare to write plays. So of course Shakespeare is going to want to flatter the king and say, yeah, of course you are the real life descendant of Banquo. No doubt. Okay. Shortly after, messengers arrived to confirm Macbeth's new title, Thane of... I've said it about 11 times now. Thane of Cawdor. Nice one, guys. Amazing answers in the chat. Thank you so much. I do apologize for not being able to read every single one. But even with the rapid fire language that I'm spitting out, I'm not going to be able to keep up with everyone. My guy ain't rap god. Making him wonder if the prophecy of what will also come true. What prophecy is he now wondering, maybe this is going to happen for me? What do we think? Nice one, Ethan. Kingship. Good. Lady Macbeth. Okay, so we've hopped across to a different area now. Lady Macbeth, upon hearing of the prophecy by what? How does she receive this word? How does she receive this word? What is it? Hi, Alicia. Or is it Alicia? King hereafter. Nice one, you guys. Messenger. How does she receive it? Nice one. Lucia. By letter. She immediately plots Duncan's what? Of course, you guys. Death or murder. Okay. What do we call it when we kill a king? What do we call it when we kill a king? It's going to be right here. Yes, you guys. It is regicide. It is regicide. Okay. And that's obviously going to be a relevant little bit of terminology for us. She questions his courage, though, and this is really important to their relationship because so many of the questions that come up in the AQA exams ask about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and their relationship and all of their interactions and how they influence one another. All of those sorts of things come up a lot. If you look back at all of the past papers, all of them seem to deal with Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. But what is it that she challenges? Nice one, you guys. It is, of course, his masculinity. Okay. She says, when you durst do it, then you were a man. Okay. Macbeth hesitates, but he's eventually persuaded, deciding to commit regicide that night. Now, what is that going to do? And let's make a little AO3 link here. Let's make an AO3 link here. What is that going to do? What's that going to do to the natural order of the world? All right. Interesting, Anya has said that Lady Macbeth is masculine. She is in some ways, yeah. Lots of you are asking about predictions. We don't do predictions here just because it's literally there's no system to the way that the examiners do their question plotting. So you could get it right purely by chance, but you're likely to mislead students in their revision. Yeah, nice one. Loads of you are talking about disrupting the divine right of kings. Okay, and this is obviously relevant. Why? Why is this an AO3 link? Who believed quite strongly in the divine right of kings? Who do you think it might be? And a big clue is that all of the context ends up heading in the same direction, and that is what? Who wrote a little booky work on the divine right of kings and other such things? Yes, you guys, it was James I. Okay, so James I wrote a little book called the Basilicon Doron. Okay, basically like a gift for kings. And in that book, he said that he believed quite strongly in the divine right of kings, i.e. that if you are a king or queen, you are appointed by God. Okay, and if you're appointed by God, then nobody can challenge your authority. And if you try and challenge that authority, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. Okay. Hamza Khan saying androgynous behavior in Lady Macbeth. Yeah, for sure. She's attached to her femininity, which holds her back. But she obviously talks also about trying to get rid of it. All right, let's jump in. Okay, Macbeth sees a vision of what? So we're on Act 2 now. We're going to try and go as quickly as possible. Radiant, is it not Basilicon Doron? That's what I said, yeah. Nice. Macbeth sees a vision of a what? Lolo, we're going to do grade 9 stuff. Yeah, for sure. For those of you asking before about that book title, the Basilicon Doron, which was like a guide for how to be a king, was the thing that talked about the divine right of kings, the D-Rock. Well, then, you guys, it is, of course, a dagger. Famous scene. Is this a dagger? Don't know why I had the same word twice. The handle, what? How many acts we do? We're going to do all the acts in terms of the plot, but we're making links out to themes. We're making links out to context. So it's not obviously just plot. This is quite a broad one. The handle, what? The handle, what my hand? Zuska has asked about kingship. So it's the idea of being a king and the responsibilities involved there. Okay, what's the significance of this preposition here, towards? What's the significance of this preposition, towards? Why have I chosen to leave that one blank and then home in on it? What are we saying? What's the significance of that? Are we doing a Christmas Carol? Yes, we'll be doing a Christmas Carol at 5:30. What do we think? Does it have a feminine ending in poetic meter, that line? So feminine endings refer to rhyme rather than meter. So I'm not quite sure what you mean. What do we think? Luring him in. Yes, nice one. User has said it takes guilt away from him. So he abnegates, which means refuses, right? He abnegates responsibility because the handle is towards his hand. He's not saying, I am clutching the dagger. It's the dagger is before me, towards my hand, the handle towards my hand. I'm being led to do this. I'm not choosing to do it. And so, yes, S has pointed out that it links into that theme of fate versus free will, which is obviously a really significant theme here. Okay, fate versus free will. Why was that an important theme? Let's think about the AO3 for a second. If we link to AO3, what's the significance of fate versus free will? What big movement? What big religious movement? Hi to her. I've already recognized, acknowledge your presence, my guy. I hope Hillcrest is treating you well. What are we thinking? AO3. What's the link here? Christianity, but specifically, what branch of Christianity? Predestination, and who was the big name in predestination? Who was the big name in predestination? Starting with a C. Starting with a C. Thank you. Number one said it, and I think someone else just before that, or sorry, just after that. It is Calvinism. Okay, this idea of Calvinism was in support of the idea of fate instead of free will. Okay, predestination. You didn't get to decide your fate. That was ordained by God. And for those of you asking about abnegates, in this case, it means refuses. Okay, so he refuses responsibility or rejects it. All right. Okay, this hallucination reveals his disturbed mind and also explores his feelings of what? Lots of people ask about abnegate. I just pointed out. Abdul, do we have to know this? Well, you have to know the plot, yeah? So you're able to talk about it with confidence. It's worth being able to link it to various themes, like fate versus free will, and that context is going to be relevant anytime you talk about fate versus free will. So yes and no. Depends what the question is that comes up. Okay. How do we embed the idea? Oh, that's disappeared. Feel free to ask it again if I miss a question that you think is really relevant to a lot of people. Okay. His feelings of remorse, temptation, any of those would be totally valid for sure. His feelings of, let's go with the word culpability, because it's another great word for AO4. Remember, you get marks for AO4 on this, which is your SPAG. So that is basically blameworthiness. It's a pretty cool word. Okay. He goes on to kill King Duncan in his what? In his what? For those of you asking about Calvinism, is just the idea that things are predestined or predetermined by God, and you don't get a choice over what happens to you in your fate. You're not in control of it. Okay. What are we saying? Kill him in his sleep, slumber. Someone has said, love that. It's giving Nandor. Slumber. Okay, so he's killed in his sleep. Now that is pretty Cowardly. Tut, tut, tut. You can kill him while he's awake. He's an old man. All right. Lady Macbeth somethings him for failing to take the plan to full completion and takes control. What is it that she does to him? What are we saying? Nice quote. It's Chris the Bell. Macbeth does murder sleep. For sure. Hi, can you structure your essay around AO3? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But remember, it's only worth 20% of your marks, realistically. Daisy, AO4 is spag and vocabulary. And the easiest way to get AO4 marks is to boost your vocabulary. Condemns, scolds, shames, emasculates. All of these are relevant. I just saw someone say chastises, which I like. Chastises. And again, this is another little AO4 one. Tells him off. Okay. The easiest way to get your AO4 marks, you guys, there's only 4 of them if you're doing AQA, is to use impressive vocab. Okay. For failing to take the plan to full completion, placing the daggers with the sleeping. Lots of people have said this already. Guards. And smearing them with what? Smearing them with what? AO3, Freddie, is context. Lots of people asking about predictions. As I've said a couple of times now, we don't do predictions here just because it's pure guesswork. If anyone says that they know what is coming up or they've worked out or calculated what's coming up for English, they're lying to you. Blood, guys, thank you. Okay, so blood, which is, of course, a symbol of guilt. And it is a significant symbol. It comes up a few times in the play. Okay. A crucial part of the plan, as doing so, will what the guards as murderers? What does it do to them? What does it do to their reputation? Yeah, Max, so the 5-year rule doesn't really apply because there's literally infinite things that you could ask about Shakespeare and Macbeth. So it's not like content in other subjects. So please don't think about the 5-year rule as a way of hacking into what's going to happen, because I promise you, as an examiner, with nearly a decade's experience of examining, that ain't how it works. All right. Okay. So, frame the guards as murderers. The next morning, someone discovers the murder. And this is really important. Blood is a motif, Daisy. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a symbol. It is a motif. And it is explored later in the play in lots of other quotes. Think about Out, Down, Spot. Think about all of Neptune's great oceans. Think about all of the perfumes of Arabia, etc. Okay. Abimbola, you're asking about AO3. So for this question, you get 6 marks, which is about 20% of your main marks for AO3. Okay. Nice one, guys. It's Macduff who discovers the murder. Maduff, apparently. Macduff. Apologize for my handwriting there. It's not clear that that's a C. Why is that significant? Why is that significant that it's Macduff who discovers it? Maura, you're asking, yeah, a couple of lines of AO3 at the end of a paragraph is perfectly fine because it's only worth those 6 marks out of your 30, plus obviously the 4 that are dropped for AO4 as well. What's the significance of this? Yeah, good stuff, you guys. Nice. Okay. You're absolutely right to say it lays the foundation of suspicion. That's lots of people wording it in different ways, but that's the general theme of what you guys are saying in the chat. It lays the foundation of suspicion for Macduff. He talks later on about how he, immediately suspects Macbeth. He even says, this is long before he leaves, he talks about wanting to stay loyal to the dead king, which is kind of crazy. Like he's gone, but he would rather be loyal to a dead king than a not very good live one. Okay. Macbeth kills the guards in supposed what? What does he say? What's his reason that he gives for killing them? It's not the real reason. Samantha, if you forget your quotes for this question, then focus more on the extract. We're going to have a look at how we use the extract in a bit. He doesn't go to Macbeth's coronation either. Yeah, excellent point. He's immediately suspicious. Yeah, supposed rage. Well done. Yeah, for those of you asking about for AO3, slotting it has to be relevant. If you just do a paragraph on irrelevant AO3, you're not going to be getting any of those marks for AO3. We can't award them if they're not linked. You can't just drop, you can't just do an AO3 dump, as a lot of examiners will call it. What does D-Rock mean, Mia? It means, sorry, that's supposed to be a D there. D-Rock, divine right of kings. Okay. In reality, he's ensuring that they die as what? Hamza, no, don't use leadhead for a single text thing. That's only for comparison. So use it on paper 2 with the poems, and indeed on English language paper 2 for comparing the two texts you get. Okay. Macbeth has joined the chat. Welcome, Macbeth. Abnegating responsibility as well. Very good. Lots of people saying scapegoats, which is another excellent AO4 term to use for them. They die as suspects or scapegoats. Basically, scapegoats are people who take the hit for a crime that they didn't commit. Okay, rather than living on their own and proving their innocence. Thank you, guys. Okay, but suspicion lingers. Duncan Sons, Malcolm and Donald Bain flee to where and where? Exactly, Karis. Thank you. Loads of people rejecting poor Macbeth. Look, my guy has travelled many centuries to be here for this stream. I think we need to be kind to him, even if he is a murderer. Flee to where and where? Where do they go? Zed, AO4 is your spag and your impressive vocab. That's the way to think of it for AO4. Well done, you guys. It is England, Ireland, respectively, fearing for their lives. The flight is inconvenient. Their flight, as in their departure, is convenient for Macbeth purposes, as it makes them seem what? Big Mark will be talking about the structure of our paragraphs in a bit. All right. It makes them seem what? Thank you, guys. Guilty. So fewer people are going to be suspecting my boy Mackie B if we have people to blame other than him. Okay. Allowing Macbeth to seize the what? What does he take? Loving that Macbeth is owning this. Yeah, beautiful stuff, guys. To seize the throne. Beautiful. Macbeth is now, king. Thank you, guys. Awesome responses. Macbeth is now king, as the witches predicted. The second prophecy that has come true so far. Okay, so AO3 link then. AO3 link. Why is it significant that the witches are right? They're not just these secret black and midnight hags who chat bare lies, fam, as I saw it described in an exam once. That's gone warm. Grim. What are we saying? Oh, my lord, it's Mr. Provis. It is. Hi, honey. How are you? Could the plot be linked to a paragraph? Ibrahim, I'm not sure what you mean. Theo, this is AQA. Someone asking, how often would you need to use the sophisticated language for AO4? I would try and be sophisticated at all times, but maybe flex your AO4 here and there. Like maybe 1 word per paragraph. Thank you, guys. Lots of people talking about demonology. This was another one of King James's publications, and it was all about, he basically was saying, I believe in witches, okay? And apart from that being kind of cringe for someone in power, apart from that being like really embarrassing that someone that high up believes in something like witches and necromancy, the relevance of this is Shakespeare is saying, hey ho, I also believe in witches. Look, I've got witches in the starring role here. They are obviously evil, but they are also correct. They are also telling the truth. They are also valid. I would try and do contextual links at the end of each paragraph that you do. That's a typical way of doing it. Okay. So I believe in witches, James I. Shakespeare, me too. Okay, Shakespeare is basically saying, look, we're going to have witches as the main characters in some of the main characters in this play. Therefore, you know that I believe in them too. Mariam, can you look in the witches and look at misogynistic views? Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's worth noting that, of course, that this publication, apart from being super cringe, did lead to one of the most horrifying large-scale persecutions of women in history, i.e. the witch trials, which spread all over the globe. So not good times, not good times. It's a pretty horrifying thing. And then, of course, Macbeth is endorsing it. Fatima, what are the Scottish Chronicles? You're probably talking about Holinshed's Chronicles, which is one of the historical sources for the text. We're not talking about Holinshed, but Holinshed's Chronicles were basically the historical textbook that Shakespeare used for any play that has historical characters in. When we will talk about paragraph structures, but realistically we do AO1, AO2, AO3, and the AO4 is peppered throughout. Okay, we are going to be analysing quotes today. You know it. All right, at 3. Now King Macbeth feels insecure about the witch's prediction that someone's heirs will rule. Who is it? Ife, no worries, you're here now, buddy. The first prophecy was that he would become Thane of Cawdor, which came immediately after. Realistically, for those of you asking about the number of quotes per paragraph, I would say you can have, 5 short quotes, maybe 2 longer ones per paragraph. Either of those approaches would work. You just go into more depth with the longer ones. You pull them apart more. In terms of number of paragraphs, probably 4 paragraphs is going to be valid for the amount of time you have on this for AQA. Thinking that the survival of his friend and what? His friend and what? Joe Conway, I would say there are certain quotes which can fit a lot of questions, yeah. And we'll be looking at those on the next couple of slides, okay. Yeah, Zara, so per paragraph, so remember that you're using the extract as well, so that would be in the extract one. For the other paragraphs, maybe, maybe 2, 3 would be fair, okay. He hires assassins to kill, of course, Banquo and his son, Fleance. Okay. They succeed in murdering Banquo, but Fleance escapes. I'm not going to spend too long on that. Leaving Macbeth, what? Leaving Macbeth, what? What does he become? Oh, Ibrahim, how can you use the plot in an answer? Well, it's your knowledge of the whole play that is basically your AO1. That's how you come up with your ideas, and it's how you show your knowledge of AO1. So that's why we're reviewing the plot. Noam, do we write a thesis statement? Yeah, we'll talk about theses in a little bit. Okay. Leaving Macbeth. Thank you, guys. Paranoid. Leaving him super paranoid. And we can, of course, talk about, again, for AO3, we're always trying to think about what connections we can make to AO3 because it's the hardest part to do. Who also was paranoid about being killed or upstaged? Ayomide, why is it significant that prophecies came true? Because it's showing that the witches were valid characters. They were not just crackpots. They were believable. Therefore, Shakespeare is endorsing James I's ideas about witchcraft. Okay. James I, thank you. Okay, so James I, why was he paranoid? What was a big thing that he was paranoid about? Well done, you guys. Because of the gunpowder plot. He became very paranoid after the gunpowder plot nearly blew up Parliament. Okay? So again, we have relevance here of, kings losing their cool a little bit. Okay, at a banquet that night. Macbeth is horrified when he sees Banquo's. Thank you. Harrison, I moved through the assessment objectives. AO1 is showing my knowledge of the play and answering the question. AO2 is analysing the writer's methods, form, structure, language. And AO3 is the context link. Okay. Banquo's ghost, thank you guys. Sitting in his seat and he loudly confronts it in front of his... Who's there? Hey, puppy. You alright, buddy? Yeah. Absolutely. Good boy. Lie down. Good boy. Yeah, his ghost. In front of his guests. Exactly. What's the significance of this? Because no one else can see it, and his public outburst does what to the guests? What does it do to them? Yeah. Thank you, guys. It alarms them. Okay, cool. It alarms the guests. Lady Macbeth dismisses it as a mere illness of the what? Those of you asking, is that Jackson? Yes, it is indeed. My boy, Jackie boy. It alarms them. Thank you. Yeah, as a mere illness of the mind to the guests, but Macbeth realizes he must act more what to maintain his power? His power. What is it? What is AO3? Lots of people asking about AO3. AO3 is your reference to socio-historical context. So the history or biography. Nice one, guys. He must. Oh, I love that. Nora has just said tyrannical. Yeah, he must act more tyrannical. Again, we are loving these AO4 opportunities. We're going to drop them in wherever we can to show off our language. Okay, must act more tyrannical to maintain his power. Meanwhile, somebody has travelled to England to seek help from somebody else. Look on that brain arc. You know it. What are we saying? Key quotes we're going to be looking at in just a little while. Yes. We are Venom. We are Venom. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Macduff. Thank you, guys. It is Macduff and Malcolm. Macduff has travelled to England to seek help from Malcolm, who fled there after his father's murder. Now, guys, why is this such a significant moment, and what does it represent about Macbeth's failings? What does it represent? Macbeth failed how? Guys, I am sweating. What are we saying? We're cooking for real. You know it, Salah. Do we need a conclusion? Yeah, conclusions, one sentence is enough. Richard Adebayo, we'll be doing a Christmas Carol at 5:35, so in just under an hour. George, 45 minutes on the plot is not a waste of time because we're not just doing the plot. We're doing AO1, we're doing AO2 with the dissections, and we're doing AO3. Then we're going to move on to quotations. Trust me, my guy, I know what gets people where they need to be. What time does this all end? Low X 7. Macbeth failed. Okay, thank you, guys. Yeah, to contain the threats. Okay. Exactly, guys. Yeah, so his threats were Macduff, which he'll discover in the next prophecy. He ends up killing his family instead of him. Bruh. Fleance. And Malcolm. Plus, I would say probably Donald Blaine. For those of you asking about tyrannical, it is basically like aggressive misuse of power. Okay, we're locking in. Let's jump. Macbeth remains deeply what? So we've already said paranoid. What would be another good word for paranoid? Let's be thinking about our AO4 all the way through. Gani, we're addressing themes as we go. So we've brought up several themes already. We've talked about the supernatural already with the witches. We've talked about fate versus free will already with the prophecies. So we're kind of bringing it there. Okay. Macbeth remains deeply what? Oppressed, distraught, concerned, anxious. Definitely not nonchalant. No, it wasn't Donald Blaine who was the traitor. That's MacDonald. Easily done. No, you don't need a conclusion. Okay. Deeply tormented. Love that. That's a nice one. Again, AO4. We're plugging it. In his position as uncontested what? What would be a great word starting with an S about being an uncontested ruler at the top of everything, unchallenged by anyone? What is a great word for that? Again, I'm thinking AO4. I'm always thinking AO4. Opportunities to plug it because it's where people feel less confident. Can you mention Freud and his theory of the id? Farah, you can, but I would point out that Freud wasn't writing until the late 19th century, and this was written in the early 17th century. So I would say probably not going to be relevant. Thank you, guys. Sovereign is dropping in the chat. As uncontested sovereign, and so he revisits the witches, demanding answers. Exactly. Okay. They show him what? An armed what? What do they show him? Guys, for those of you asking about predictions, we just don't do predictions because there is no system that the... Oh, you love my chair. Thank you. There's no system by which the examiners choose their questions. It can be literally anything. Okay. What does sovereign mean? Sovereign means like an uncontested ruler who makes all the decisions. For those of you saying that you could obviously talk about like reading this through a Freudian lens, you totally can, but I would say theoretical approaches are not usually the best move until you're working at a higher level like A level and undergraduate. Koala, ask your question again. I just saw if you had to pick one, but I can't see what it was referencing. What are we saying? An armed what? Do you need a conclusion, Mohammed? No, you don't. Thank you, Nabil. That's a nice comment on my microphone and my face. What are we saying? Lorenzo, why does Mr. Everything English do predictions? He probably thinks that he knows what's going to come up. I think he does it with a good reason. He definitely does it with a good reason. Ooh, sorry. But it's not going to be accurate or based on truth. Okay. Who's he supposed to beware? Well done, you guys. We're going to zoom through these last ones so we can get on to some of the more exciting stuff. A bloody child. Thank you. Someone said baby. Child is fine. None of, crucially, woman born shall harm Macbeth. How does he manage to get out of that one? How does Macduff manage to contradict this prophecy whilst also fulfilling this prophecy? Yeah, guys, anyone who predicts things right has done it through luck. Okay, and luck runs out. That's all I'm saying. You obviously go ahead and look at predictions if it makes you feel more confident for the exam. No problems with that, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be held accountable for inevitably wrong ones. Okay, yeah, so there is the Caesarean. Okay, now what's this an example of? I'm not sure if any of you would know this word, but it's a really cool one. This is what we call a literary quibble. Okay, so you're deliberately misreading the implied meaning. You know, no one of woman born, that should mean everyone. And you go to the very specific meaning of woman and born, and C-section, it is not born in the traditional sense. Okay. Mushy Peas has asked about where did Fleance go? We don't know. We never find out. Okay, so this is a quibble. And that's basically what that works out. It's just a pretty cool word, again, for 3A04. Okie dokie. A crowned child with a what? With a what? A crowned child with a what? What do we think? What are the grade boundaries? Poppy Walsh, they change every year. Someone asking, is quibble a grade 9 thing to put in? It's certainly a high grade thing, certainly for A04. Is this equivocation? Yeah, this is lots of people are saying equivocation. Yeah, it is for sure. With a branch. Okay, this is significant because the Burnham Wood moves to, thank you guys, Dunsinane. Okay. Feeling what in the wake of the second prophecy? So he's got two feelings about these prophecies. What are they? He's got some mixed feelings, hasn't he? Bianca, stop answering random people's questions. Why not? I think they're relevant here, aren't they? I'm trying to please as many people as possible. That's why we are on. That's why you guys are here answering these, typing for me. Feeling confident. Good. He's feeling confident in the wake of the second prophecy, but insecure. Thank you, guys. In the face of the first. Macbeth orders the murder of Macduff's what? Derek, how many paragraphs? I would say probably 4. Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you. Macduff's wife and children. Stupid move. Meanwhile, in England, someone tests Macduff's loyalty. Who is it? Who's in England? Who is in England that he goes to see? Some great comments going through in the chat. Thank you, guys. It was, of course, Malcolm. Someone just asked me, how can you know all of the possible questions that come up? It is essentially never ending, but they will try and make it things that everyone can answer, so it's a slightly smaller thing than infinite. Okay. Macduff's loyalty before revealing that he has an army ready to, of course, invade Scotland. Okay. Guys, what's the relevance of England versus Scotland? What's the relevance of England versus Scotland? What's the relevance of that? AO3 wise. I'm going to try and drop as many AO3 opportunities as possible, guys. Same with AO4. What do we think? Okay, yeah, so there's Mary, Queen of Scots. That was a relevant one. And there's also James VI. And what do you know, guys? He becomes James I of England. Okay? So we have a retelling here of unity between the two countries rather than clashes. Okay? So essentially, what Shakespeare doing, he's saying, welcome, Scottish King. My guy, I respect you, I love you. And we want England and Scotland united. Yeah, that is what you're doing for us as king. Bestie, thank you so much. Okay, finally, Act 5. Act 5, let's go. Thank you, guys. Loads of you pointing out that he was the 6th and the 1st. Okay. Abimbola, if you get a question on Malcolm or Macduff, what quotes could you use, please? It's unlikely you get a question on specific minor characters. Simran, will we go through themes? We're going through themes as we go. I hope that you've spotted that lots of themes are coming up repeatedly. We are going to focus on quotes on the next little bit, though. Okay. Lady Macbeth, consumed by what? Guilt. Thank you. This lag is a real drag, you guys, because I keep asking questions and then being like, are they going to answer? Begins sleepwalking and obsessively watting her hands. Thank you, Laura. I do my slay queening as best I can. Mushy Peas, how long do I recommend you spend planning? I'd say 5 minutes annotating. Yeah. Do we do Blood Brothers? Someone is asking. Yeah, we'll be doing that in the next one. This one's missing in the workbook. Sad times, guys. Let's just do it through the chat then. Sleepwalking and obsessively. Thank you. Washing. Her hands crying out, damned. Spot, out I say. An unsubtle reference to the concept of guilt as blood on one's hands. Her once unshakable confidence has crumbled. Guys, lots of you pointing out that the workbook is missing this page. Don't you worry about it. We've got this recording here, haven't we? Okay. Whose army advances? Whose army advances? Yes, it is, of course, Malcolm. And you could even argue Macduff's because he's become part of them. Prashita, yes, somnambulist. Lady Macbeth, yes, she is a sleepwalker, a somnambulist, exactly. Diary is taking so long. Yes, because there's so much to say. That's the beauty of it. What word is it? Oh, it is Burnham Wood, which marches to Dunsinane. Ruh-oh. Okay. Macbeth clings to the witch's words, believing he cannot be harmed of anyone. Yes, born of woman, which in his eyes is anyone. Okay, there's our quibble. Silly sausage, he is wrong. Lady Macbeth, what's off stage? What does she do off stage? Yep, she dies. Good stuff, you guys. Possibly, we don't know, but assumed possibly by, yes, suicide. Beautiful. And Macbeth's reaction is understated but devastated with his tragic tomorrow and what? You know what, guys? You know what, guys? It's going to be tomorrow as well. Soliloquy. Thank you. Keep them coming, guys. About the futility of life in her absence. It's very sad. A lot of people skate over this or act it wrong, in my opinion. Then when he hears of Burnham Wood moving towards the castle, he realizes he has been bested. I want to get onto the quotes and the practice questions and analyses, guys. So we're going to go quickly through this last bit. In the final battle, Macbeth fights bravely but meets Mackie D, who reveals he was from his mother's womb, untimely ripped, a caesarean birth, meaning he was not born of woman in the usual sense. This is known as a quibble, which we've just talked about. Macbeth understands his fate is sealed, but fights on until Macduff kills him. Okay. Malcolm is declared king. Hooray! Promising to restore order to Scotland. Okay, significance of that. Rightful king means we can make reference to what? Does Macbeth care Lady Macbeth died or not? Mary, yes, very much so. Read that soliloquy in depth. Yeah. Divine right of kings, guys. Yes, exactly. The divine right of kings is going to be relevant here because order has been restored by the rightful king taken to the throne. Ends with a sense of order being restored, so that links to that. Blah-de-blah. Unmentioned continued existence of Banquo's son. We've already said. James the Sixth / First believes himself to be a descendant of the real-life Banquo of history. Boom. Why do all their names begin with Mac, Mina? It's a Scottish thing. This is famously the Scottish play. A lot of theatres believe that you can't even call it by its actual name of Macbeth or the tragedy of Macbeth. You have to call it the Scottish play because it's bad luck to say Macbeth in the theatre. So yeah, famously Scottish. Okay, let's go. Right, 10 key quotes. Vanny, thank you so much for your support. Have a good evening. Okay. For those of you asking, do we do Jane Eyre? We don't do Jane Eyre, sadly not. Which exam board is this? AQA. The structure should help with any question, Freddie, yeah. What's the great chain of being, Ren? That is basically this idea that we have God at the top, then we have the king, and then everything else below them. So it's like very similar to the divine right of kings. There's nothing higher than the sovereign in terms of human beings. Okay. Right, significance of this being from the Weird Sisters. Fair is foul and foul is fair. Paradoxical, people are saying, yep, definitely. Paradoxical. What does weird mean? Anyone know? Comes from the Old English weird, meaning what? Nice. This is an inversion. Nice use of terminology. You guys are smashing it. Chiasmus. Fair is foul, foul is fair. Yeah, that is chiasmus. Nice. What is it? Yeah, weird means fate. Okay, so we can link that obviously to that idea of Calvinism that we talked about before. Fate versus free will. This is a really relevant quotation for that one because we're seeing that, well, literally just the name of the Weird Sisters, because they're not actually called the witches. All right, they're only called the witches in the stage directions, which were written by people not Shakespeare. Can you argue Macbeth lost respect for his wife? He doesn't know about that moment where she is talking about out damn spot. They haven't met since then, so I would say no. Okay. Appearance versus reality. Nice. You could also argue, couldn't you, that if these are evil beings, then of course they would see things that are fair, i.e. beautiful, as bad, and bad things as beautiful. Okay, because they are evil. They see things in a different way. What about Lady Macbeth talking to hubby? Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. What are those examples of that I've just highlighted? These are both examples of what? Javin, can you say that when Duncan dies, Lady Macbeth starts to lose power? Yeah, from that point onwards, definitely. Paradoxical means inherently contradictory, Nahum. Duality, definitely. Okay, so we've got a bunch of things here, but these are imperatives. Right, she's in charge. Okay, she's in charge there. And then you're absolutely right. Those of you pointing out that this is, of course, biblical imagery here. Biblical imagery. We're talking about the Garden of Eden in Genesis. Being the serpent means that you are going to lead astray. So you're going to corrupt. Okay. So corruption, tying this to original sin. We've got a lot of biblical links that we could make, which is of course an AO3 point. Okay. She's encouraging duality. Absolutely. People love that word. It's a great AO4 one. H saying, can you call her losing her power like Peripateia because she doesn't know it yet, but she has a sudden reversal of fate? Potentially, but she's not really the tragic hero. You would argue that that's probably Macbeth, but yeah, you can certainly use that terminology in there. Okay. Okay. What does Lady Macbeth say in Act 5 when she mentions King Duncan? She says, who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him, Ren? Okay. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition. What is a spur, you guys? In the chat, what's a spur? What's duality? Adoriel, duality is where you are equally two different things within yourself. Thank you, Etta, for confirming that. Yeah. Could you talk about Folie à Dieu? For sure, Mariam. Yeah, for sure. Guys, what's a spur? A horsey thing. Exactly. Okay, it's a horsey thing. So if we're talking about it in terms of right visuals, okay. Here's a horse from behind. Here you are on top of your horse. Okay, here you are with your feet. Okay, when you're riding a horse, okay, if you want to get your horse moving, you've got these little spikes on the inside of your boots. You push them in this direction, so you kick your horse in the side, and basically that makes the horse go faster. Okay, Macbeth is saying, I do not have a spur to prick the sides of my intent. Okay, I have no spur. Meaning what? What is he saying there? Thank you for the love on the drawing, guys. Picasso, who? The great horse of being, NQ3H. Yes, you know it. Is it the horses you know what? No, it isn't. No. She's controlling him. Okay, so who is the spur to prick the sides of his intent? Okay. At this point, there is no outside force. Why is that so significant, you guys? Why is that so significant? Because it says he does have vaulting ambition, right? So he wants these things. There is no outside force. So at this point, this is the first time, and pretty much the only time he's responsible, okay? On all other occasions, you know, it's his wife manipulating him. It is the witches saying that this will happen. It is the fact that he can't go back when he's gone so far, okay? Right, so we've got this really important kind of moment where he's essentially ignoring those outside forces and taking responsibility. He doesn't hold on to it for long. Could he be oblivious to the power Lady Macbeth has on him? L, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He doesn't ever complain about what she's doing, does he? Okay. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? What does he mean by that? Okay. So there is no relief from the guilt. Cool. And then what does Lady Macbeth say in contrast to this? All great Neptune's ocean, what does she say will wash away the guilt? Can you remember? Thoughts on Arctic monkeys? Yeah, they're ace. What does she say? What does Lady Macbeth say? Well done, you guys. A little water. A little water clears us of this deed, okay? So we get a massive contrast between them in terms of how much guilt they feel. But later on, what does she say? All the perfumes of Arabia. Almost the exact same phrasing. All the perfumes of Arabia could not clean this little hand. Okay, so if we think about linking quotations together, the development of their respective guilts and worries, okay? Okay, guys. So what we're going to do, obviously those quotations, we're going to have to come back to because I really want to make sure that we have an opportunity to do some sort of like close analysis. Okay. So we're gonna hop forward there. If you have any questions about any of those quotations, feel free to drop them throughout the rest of the lesson. Sorry for the sweaty forehead. I just want to make sure that we've got an opportunity to do as many things as possible. And I've been answering so many questions that we're a bit behind on time. So let's jump in. Okay. So the question would be, okay, starting with this extract, explore how Shakespeare presents the theme of sovereignty in the play Macbeth. Okay, so sovereignty is the theme that we're looking at from this little soliloquy of Macbeth's. Guys, for those of you saying I missed one, I missed a few quotations because, like I said, I want to make sure that we have enough time to do all of these things. But because there's so many of you here, I hadn't anticipated quite so many people answering all of these questions. So I'm trying to zoom through. Okay, so sovereignty, which is the idea of being an unchallenged and rightful ruler. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about this theme, absolutely. What is sovereignty? I've just explained it there. Okay, so Macbeth says, if it were done when 'tis done, then 'twould well if it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with this surcease success, that but his blow might be the be-all and end-all here. But here, upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself besides. This Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity, like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other. Okay, boom, right, here is our extract. What we would be doing here is we would be thinking, okay, this is obviously before King Duncan is about to be murdered by Macbeth. Okay, so guys, yeah, you'll be able to download the annotated versions of this hopefully at the end. Okay, guys, what's annoying? Successful Valiant. Am I making jokes? I don't think I am, buddy. And I really don't think that has taken a bunch of time. But I do apologize for trying to be human, bro. If it were one, when 'tis done. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to be thinking, okay, about sovereignty, the idea of being a good, rightful king. Okay, so in this section here, Macbeth is talking about how valid his character, how valid a king Duncan is. Okay, how valid a king Duncan is. He is saying, hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, his virtues. And in this section here is talking about what a good king he is. Okay. Thank you guys for the kind words. Okay. In this section here, he is talking about how he should be good. I'm his kinsman and his subject. I am his right-hand man and also a friend of his. Strong both against the deed, then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. He's talking about what he should do. Okay, he's talking about what he should do as a ruler. Okay, and then if we think about blah, blah, blah. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other. Okay, so these are the quotations that I think would be the most valid ones to talk about. Okay, and in this section, we're going to talk about the rightful behavior Then we're going to talk here about the Basilicon Duran, which is, of course, a description of the ideal king written by King James I. That's going to be my AO3 link. Devam, how many paragraphs for the extract and actual memorization in the exam? Well, it's a great question. Okay, it's a great question. I love you, Louis. Thank you, Demalia. I appreciate that. How many quotes should we have? Well, I would say from the extract itself, you can have as many quotations as you want. If you're struggling with quotations from elsewhere in the play, I would probably have paragraphs where you're talking about the extract, and then you're linking out a little bit to the rest of the play from the extract each time. Okay, this is how we are planning the response. Okay, for those of you asking, this is how we are planning the response. Here's going to be an AO3 link for me. Then I'm thinking, well, we can drop, can't we? We can drop this idea of kinsman and subject in to show our knowledge of elsewhere in the play with his titling, Thane of Cawdor. Okay, so that's going to be a little AO1 connection to elsewhere in the play. Devam, I think I just answered your question about how much to do from this one. Okay. Meek, great office, virtues, all of these are to do with being an ideal ruler. This is about the rightful behavior, and we can contrast these two, can't we? Because Macbeth is acting like a scumbag. All right, Macbeth is acting like a scumbag, and he's talking about how King Duncan is acting like a really good guy. Okay. Then for this excellent quotation, we can talk about here. So this is early on in the play. He's responsible. Okay. And then later, he abnegates it. Okay. And we can link that to the dagger quotation. Remember, we talked about abnegating responsibility earlier. We can link it to the dagger quotation from elsewhere. So Luke is saying, your teacher said you can't get more than a level 2 response if you only reference the extract. Is that true? Yes, you do have to speak about the rest of the play. Absolutely. Okay. Thea Williams, what if you can't find many in the extract? The extract is definitely going to be the best place to look for your answer. So I would say you will be able to. Okay. Can you say the knife is feminine, Zara? That's interesting. Tell me why. For those of you answering about model answer, yes, we will be doing. Sorry, guys, there are so many questions coming through. I can't answer all of them whilst also engaging my tiny brain. So here's going to be some AO2 and also AO1 where I'm linking to elsewhere in the play. I can talk about his early responsibility contrasting with his later abnegation of responsibility. If you missed anything, yeah, you can always rewind. Thank you, Angelina, for pointing that out. Okay. Yes, you can access through this through the main course. Abnegating is refusing responsibility. Isabel, we're doing the essay plan now. So you plan your essay on the extract, okay? Thank you, Duha. Appreciate that, buddy. Good to see you. Okay. So here is a good place. We've started with our reference to the extract. So now we're going to be thinking about our paragraphs and how we can move forward with them. Casper, you've told you have to start with the extract. Is that true? For AQA, no, you don't. You don't have to start with the extract. You can embed the extract through your whole piece, or you can go chronologically. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. UK, no, spur, as in the thing that makes horses go faster. That's what a spur is. Okay, so the first paragraph, we're going to do the extract, and we're going to do contrast Dunk versus Mac. Okay, that would be the first paragraph. Second paragraph would be talking about the spur versus dagger imagery, how that develops. Then we would talk about probably, I would say, the responses of the nobles to Macbeth's sovereignty. Okay, so this idea of loyalty and where does it lie? That would probably be my 3 paragraphs, because I found ideas in the extract that can relate to all of those and also places elsewhere in the extract. Okay, so does that feel like enough to be getting on with? Hopefully, I'm going to show you how you would start a perfect essay, rather. Sorry, I just saw someone called Etta. Going to show you how to do a thesis and your first paragraph. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so your thesis sentence, okay, so your thesis, which is the first sentence that you write in your essay, it should be doing the following things, okay? It should make reference to the extract. It should make reference to the whole play. It should make reference to a little bit of context to explain it. And it should answer the question in brief, okay? It should answer the question in brief. So for those of you who's talking about how many paragraphs to do, realistically, the number of paragraphs is never something examiners are thinking about because paragraphs can vary massively in length, okay? If you use 3 quotes in the response, would we only use 1 from outside? Yeah, that's a fair enough ratio, Judy. You've been given the extract to provide you with AO2 content, okay? Okay, let's go. Guys, if I've missed a question, feel free to answer it again. I'll try to. Okay, so I will show you how to write one of these thesis sentences. Are we only doing the thesis now? We're going to do our first paragraph, Garika, as well. We'll have time for that. What is a thesis statement? Is it a coat hanger? Yeah, pretty much successful, Valiant, for sure. Is a conclusion going to prevent you from achieving a grade 9? No, but it's probably a waste of time. I'll probably just do it as 1 sentence. Okay. Casper, no. Fewer paragraphs don't mean fewer marks if the paragraphs are more robust. So let me just show you how we're going to do this. So the opening sentence answers the question in brief. Okay. So Macbeth's sovereignty in the extract is incipient, and so incipient means it's burgeoning, it's growing, it's starting to build. Okay. Macbeth's sovereignty in the extract is incipient, and a blueprint of his later corruption, in stark contrast with Duncan's glowing image of sovereignty. Okay, so notice I'm answering the question really, really briefly, and excuse me, answering the question really, really briefly with tiny little references to the extract, to elsewhere in the play, and connecting it to AO3 context. Okay, Anika, if you're asking about intros, this is the opening sentence, which is enough of an introduction. Okay. Yes, adds to source. Yes, you can, absolutely. Incipient means growing and original. Okay. So Macbeth's sovereignty in the extract is incipient and a blueprint of his later corruption, in stark contrast with Duncan's glowing image of sovereignty, providing a clear nod to James I's Basilicon Duran, in which the divine right of kings is tied to the ideal ruler. Okay, that's enough, because what I've done is I have made reference to the extract, I have made reference to the play as a whole, and I have made reference to AO3. Okay, for those of you asking about sovereignty, you'd be unlikely to get the actual word sovereignty in the exam, but it's basically talking about uncontested kingship. Okay. So Macbeth's sovereignty in the extract is incipient and a blueprint of his later corruption, in stark contrast with Duncan's glowing image of sovereignty, providing a clear nod to James I's Basilicon Duran, in which the divine right of kings is tied to the ideal ruler. Okay, so then we can jump into the extract. Incipient means like a baby, it is growing. Okay, guys, if you missed it the 3rd time, just scroll back. Okay, just rewind. D-Angel, your teacher always tells you never to talk about context in the intro. I disagree entirely, D-Angel. I think it's a really relevant time to do it, as long as you are actually linking it to the question. Untitled tyrant for the play as a whole path. Yeah, excellent quotation. Love that one. Okay. Derek, the key word in the question will be simpler than this. Promise you. Guys, if you can't remember what Basilican Doron is, scroll back or Google it. I can't re-explain everything 100 times, unfortunately, because we are low on time. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the extract. Okay, so here I want to really show off my AO2 skills. I want to be flexing my AO2 aggressively at my examiner, showing that I can go deep into the language that's been provided for me in the extract. Okay, the extract is there to give you deep AO2. Some random girls, this is applied to Educast. In Educast, don't you have to do the extract separately? I can't remember. Okay, so we're going to jump in with the quotation. Okay, so in the extract. Okay, so here's a nod to the examiner. I'm starting with the extract. I don't have to start with the extract, but this is what I'm going to do. Okay, in the extract, Macbeth acknowledges his obligation to his king whilst singing the praises of the same king he is to murder. So the opening sentence of each paragraph, I am just saying what my paragraph is going to focus on. Okay? So in the extract, Macbeth acknowledges his obligation to the king while singing the praises of the same king he is to murder. So now we're going to dive into some close language, okay? Some close language structure. Leah, you don't have to do it chronologically. That is one valid way of doing it, yes. Okay, let's go. So Macbeth is keen to justify his inaction by praising now look at how I embed my quotations. Hasib, feel free to ask it again. These questions zoom up the screen quite quickly. By praising the, where is it? The meekness. So notice the way that I am embedding this. Because the word is meek, I needed to do my square brackets around meekness. By praising the meekness of Duncan's faculties and his virtues abundant. Okay, so I'm just embedding short quotations that all relate to it. So notice that you can do longer quotations that you dissect and you pick apart and you go into detail with, or alternatively, you can go in with several shorter quotations that back up your point. Alaya, do you have to zoom into words and analyze them? I think it's a good idea. Yeah. Trace, if the context is wrong, will you lose marks? Yeah. Lauren, will you get marked down by using the brackets? No, absolutely not. They're a smart way of embedding. Macbeth is keen to justify his inaction by praising the meekness of Duncan's faculties and his virtues abundant. These abstract nouns conveying the ideal model of kingship pitted against, apologies for the typo, pitted against his own prospective failures as a nobleman. And then we're going to have was it the Jacobean era? Yes, it was, Alex. So that refers to King James I. Yeah, correct. There is no negative marking. You are correct. Yeah, you're not going to be losing marks, but you might miss out on marks. That's the other way to do it. Okay. Ideal model of kingship pitted against his own prospective failures as a nobleman. And then we're going to have, again, square brackets bearing the knife himself. Whereupon the motif of the dagger that arises later is first foreshadowed. This time as something he owns responsibility for. Now, this is where I'm going to relate it to elsewhere in the extract. K-Chen, you don't use critics. You don't do that for GCSE. That's an A-level thing. You don't need critics at GCSE. Okay. those of you asking about the square brackets, yeah, square brackets are just any time you change something from within the quote. Ayesha, could you depict Lady Macbeth as a femme fatale? Yeah, for sure. Rejecting masculinity, etc. Okay, this time is something he owns responsibility for. Earlier, and this is going to be the last point that I make with this kind of opening paragraph. Earlier in the play, later in the play, my bad. Later in the play, Macbeth will abnegate responsibility for this heinous deed of regicide. Here I'm just trying to slot in my impressive AO4 marks. Will abnegate responsibility for this heinous deed of regicide by talking about the dagger's handle toward his hand. The preposition toward implying the decision has been made for him rather than by him. Okay, at this point, would you lose marks if you talk about critics? Kerry, no, there's just no point in doing it. You're not going to gain any marks, so you're technically losing marks because you're losing out on marks. Okay, now I'm going to try and link it to my AO3. Okay, my AO3 for this paragraph, let's just think about it. Talking about responsibility, we could talk about the expectations for kings to accept responsibility, and maybe the guilt surrounding regicide attempts. So that would be my link to potentially the what's the word? The gunpowder plot. Okay. This sense of moral outrage surrounding murder of the sovereign. So here I'm making reference to the question. This sense of moral outrage surrounding murder of the sovereign clearly nods to James I's brutal retribution served to the orchestrators of the famed gunpowder plot. Okay, in this paragraph, you guys, the way that I've structured it is I've started with my AO1 where I'm answering the question. In the extract, Macbeth acknowledges blah, blah, blah. Then I jump in and I do some really close textual analysis. I'm using my terminology. I'm quoting multiple times from the extract. Then I'm linking out to the rest of the play, and then I'm linking out to the context. Now, you don't have to do every paragraph like this. You can do a single paragraph on the extract and then explore the rest of the play, or you can do it in this nifty way, which I really like, which is where you start with the extract as a foundation, then you link out to any ideas within the extract that are represented elsewhere in the play, and then you connect it to a contextual idea, and then you're ticking all of those boxes, AO1, AO2, AO3. Okay? Right, guys. I am very much out of breath. We're going to take a 5-minute break now, okay? Curb, you're thinking it's giving grade 4 now. I promise you this is not. This is heading towards a grade 9, but obviously this is just the first paragraph after our thesis. How many marks for AO3Z? It is 6 marks. Okay, guys, we are going to we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to start on A Christmas Carol in 5 minutes. So I'm just going to I'm going to just disappear myself for a second, and then we can come back in 5 minutes. Feel free to leave a Trustpilot review if you are learning things. I would really appreciate it. It helps us grow and offer more things like this for free without having to charge. All right, besties, see you in a bit. Yo, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking a little time and giving me time to have a little sip of my drink. Really good to have you back. Now, something just to kind of quickly bear in mind about these sessions. There's a huge number of people on. I would love to be answering every single question. I would love to be speeding through things as fast as possible, but obviously it's very difficult to manage that. So please remember that I am human. This is free. I'm doing my very bestest, which is good language for an English teacher to be using. Now, you guys, for those of you who weren't in the last session, this is just a quick insight into who I am. Hey puppy, you're right. So fully qualified English teacher. I've been teaching in schools up and down England for the last 11 years. I did my English degrees at Oxford and Cambridge, got a master's from both, and I'm currently working on a PhD in education as well. Spent 9 years as an examiner for various exam boards, including AQA, OCR, EdXL, and EDUCAS. So when I say things, I'm speaking from experience. And obviously trying my best to answer all these questions. So if you have a technical question, please direct it to the mods. If you have a really important question, just keep on sending it and I will try and get there. If I'm running slower than you were expecting or faster than I'm expecting, I do apologize. Remember that there's like 2,000 people on here, and as a result, some people I'm going to be moving too slow for, some people I'm not going to be moving fast enough for. So I do apologize in advance. I agree. Let's go a bit quicker on plot than we did for Macbeth. Okie dokie. Mr. Everything English said to do 20 minutes of planning. What, per question? PT, I think that would be overkill, honestly. Daisy, you and your mum want me to know I'm really good at it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Sakuna, good luck. Let's jump in. So we're going to go through the plot. The novel begins with the death of whom? Remember, this is A Christmas Carol. If you're supposed to be doing Jekyll and Hyde, you need to hop streams to Alex, which is what that 5-minute break was for. Who dies at the beginning, you guys? What are we saying? Leah, yeah, that's definitely possible. Jacob Marley, yes. Okay, Jacob Marley. How many years on? 20 minutes for both questions. Zora, that is insane. Lots of people saying Bob Marley, not quite. Being reflected on how many years on? How many years on after his death? Guys, remember there's a slight lag. So if I still seem to be asking the question, it's because I haven't seen it pop up in the chat yet because there's a bit of a delay. All right. Ebenezer Scrooge Gaming. Love that name. 7 years on. Okay. 7 years on where the story begins. The protagonist, what's his name? What is his name? First name, Ebby, Neezy, Zur. He's got lots of nicknames, I bet, from all his friends. Oh, wait, he doesn't have any friends. We learned that it is what tonight? What day of the year is it tonight? That's obviously relevant to our story. Relevant to our story. Lots of people have named themselves Ebenezer Scrooge or something similar in the chat. We love to see it. We are fangirling over Dickens right now. We love to see it. Ebenezer Scrooge, come on. We learned that it is what day of the year? Christmas Eve. Thank you, David and Eva. Thank you, Matthew. It is Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve tonight. The clerk, what's his name? What's the name of his clerk? What's the name of his clerk, would we say? By the way, guys, if any of you have any questions that I don't manage to answer or you would like more detail on some of the text that we're not covering, check out my TikTok and YouTube because I've got videos on loads of different areas of the different texts. This has obviously got to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Nice one, you guys. It is, of course, Bob Cratchit. Big Bob will be allocated a single day off for Christmas. Scrooge's nephew, what's his name, then visits. What's the name of his nephew? Important character because he is Scrooge's only connection to family that is left. Thank you. We love Tiny Tim. Yes, we do, Unbothered. My guy. Thank you. His nephew Fred visits and invites his uncle to what? It's Christmas something. And it is the clearest celebration of this time of year. Are Fred and Bob related, Javian? No, they're not. No, they're not. Bob is an employee and Fred is Scrooge's nephew. Thank you, guys. It is Christmas dinner, which he refuses along with any suggestion that Christmas is what? He rejects the notion that Christmas is what? What do we think, guys? Anything other than what? Good for the poor. Ebenezer Scrooge, interesting. Sorry, Scrooge Gaming. Are Tiny Tim and Bob related? Yes. No, Bob is Tiny Tim's dad. So I call him Big Bob and Tiny Tim. Okay. He refuses to believe that Christmas is anything but a humbug. Exactly. What's a humbug, you guys? Ain't nothing but a humbug. What's a humbug? We use this quotation all the time, but I very rarely see students actually using this word with any kind of accuracy or digging into what it means. What is it? A sweetie? Well, it is these days, but it's not now. A bother. So a humbug, you guys, is a total con. Okay? So a humbug, when Scrooge says, bah, humbug, he's saying that Christmas is a humbug, i.e. it is just a total con. It is not anything that is legit. It's the opposite of legit. It is just nonsense. It is a misleading thing for people to get excited about. A humbug is a real disappointment. Do not call it a sweet. That only came up rather later. He's then visited by some gentlemen who are what? What are they doing? What are these gentlemen doing? Yeah, exactly. Humbug is a way to dismiss something. What are they doing? Good stuff, you guys. Yes, of course, they are collecting for charity. Is this our first opportunity to make a AO3 link? What's the new law saying about charity? Charitable giving. What is the new law, the poor law, the new amendment to it? What does it say about charitable giving? This is really important. It is the new poor law, exactly. Food bans, not quite. Singing carols, no. What are we looking at? What do we think? The new poor law, what? Thank you, guys. What's the law? What does it say now? Can't donate to the poor, pretty much, Shreya. It's no outside, thank you, Jess, no outside aid, no outdoor aid, which basically means that you're not supposed to be collecting for the poor. The poor are supposed to be going where? Where should they be going instead of getting charitable handouts from the wealthy? Where should they be going instead? Workhouses, you guys, exactly. Okay, that's where they're expected to go if they are poor. Go into the workhouses, get them off the streets, tidy up the area. It's basically the logic of the new poor law. Take the pressure off the church for providing charity. Perfect stuff, you guys. Thank you. He also refuses to take part in that. A third visitor, a young boy, watting. He's watting Watts. What do you think, guys? He's watting Watts. Yeah, he is singing carols. Is ousted by Scrooge under threat of what? Under threat of what? What does he threaten this boy with? Exactly, Karis. Remove the undesirables from the size of the population. It's exactly what's going on there, yeah. Under the threat of, violence, I think is fair. You could note that it was a ruler. It's going to hit him with a ruler. Yeah, exactly. Well remembered, Eva and Sophia. Not very nice. A whipping. Exactly, Karis. On finishing work, Scrooge causes all who look upon him to what? What does he do? As he's just walking down the street. If you think about your typical movie scene where you have someone walking down the street and everyone's reacting, it's one of those. What do they do? Yeah, Daisy, he threatens with losing all his TikTok followers. Exactly. um, Fahad, what is Scrooge's actual business or shop for? So it never actually specifies, but most people think that he's probably a money lender because he's profiting from people's poverty and is also building money for himself. So it's likely that he is a money lender. Good stuff, you guys. To cower, lots of nice ones. Flee, avoid eye contact. Even the blind are encouraged to avoid the path of Scrooge by their seeing eye dogs, right? It's one of those situations where everyone is just appalled by him. He is a miser. He passes the evening in a tavern before returning to his lodgings, once shared with, of course, Jacob Marley. Second time that name has come up. Libby, what's Davis' ignorance and want? It's a very good question. So this is Ghost of Christmas Present, so that's going to be stave 2. Whereupon he sees the latter's face in ghostly form on the what? Where does he see the face? Where does he see the face? Good. On the door knocker, which he promptly ignores. Okay. Why does he ignore it? What does that say about his character? Yeah, good. Okay, so he's deeply rational, isn't he? He's a rational character. He refuses to be led astray by anything that he thinks is unrealistic. Okay. Inside later on, the approach of the what of Jacob Marley, and this directly contradicts what we're thinking about the deeply rational side of things. The ghost of Jacob Marley is signaled by the sound of what? Signaled by the sound of what? And why is this relevant? What do we think? Why is it relevant? Sorry, I did mean stave 3, Ghost of Christmas Present. So stave 3, not stave 2. My apologies. I meant the second ghost. Thanks for confirming, guys. Chains, guys. Why is chains significant? What's the significance of ghosts, and particularly these kind of ghosts, being signaled by the arrival of chains? Why chains? Significance of the chains? Motif of bells, interesting. Yep, we do hear the bells. Okay. So we do hear bells, we do hear chains as well. We hear both of those things. We're going to focus on the chains right now because we've got basically this idea of punishment, haven't we? Punishment, purgatory, people are saying. Beautiful. Yep, exactly. And obviously, he is kind of wandering. He's wandering the earth in these chains. And only tonight, I wear the chains I forged in life, you guys, exactly. He's told that chains are punishment for what? What did he do? Nice one, Maddie. He's bound, cannot escape punishment and suffering. The weight of the sins, Keris, exactly. You guys are smashing it tonight. Told that chains are punishment for his what? His acts when alive, yeah. That's one way of looking at it for sure. And warns that Scrooge is set to what? What's Scrooge going to do? Exactly, end up in the same place. End up the same if nothing changes. Thank you, guys. Keep them coming. To this end, he advises that Scrooge will be visited by... Of course, we know this one. It's the whole premise of the story. 3 spirits. 3 spirits. Thank you. Experience the same fate. Beautiful. Lots of you are pointing out some really great terminology here. Remember, there's no AO4 marks for this question. So although it would be absolutely valid to call him misanthropic, whilst it would be entirely valid for you to be talking about him being a catalyst, I think some of these people went to Hillcrest because these are classic Hillcrest words here. People talking about him being a miser, a curmudgeon. These are all great words, but no AO4 marks here, so you can just stick to the simple ones. AO4, by the way, for those of you asking, is your spag and your impressive vocab, so don't need to worry about it. Great quotes here about the grey versus gravy. So first of all, he is visited by the ghost of what? Ghost of what first? Zed, no, because some people will be in a different stream, so we're not going to go back to Macbeth right now. But like I said, I've got loads and loads of content out there on Macbeth on YouTube and TikTok, so check those ones out. We are very pressed for time, sadly. Okay, Ghost of, thank you, Christmas past, first of all, isn't it? He appears as a strange figure, both old and young, with a what shining from his head? Yeah, a light. And this is a very on-the-nose metaphor, a little bit almost kind of excessive. And it's obviously this concept of enlightenment, okay? A light coming from someone's head, they have wisdom, right? Easy peasy. Spirit takes Scrooge on a journey through his past, showing him scenes from 3 areas. What 3 areas in his past is Scrooge shown? What do you think? Yeah, sadly, I don't have anything for Much Ado About Nothing. I would love to. Maybe I can produce some really quick stuff tonight before bed. I'm not sure if it'll go out in time though. Okay, they're from his childhood. Okay, yeah. So from his childhood, his apprenticeship. People are saying, yeah, apprenticeship, and his early career. Yeah, that's totally fair. So we're going into the past for sure. Sadly, I don't know anyone doing stuff for Things Fall Apart. It's extremely rare that schools around the country study that. It's a shame because it's a good text, but no one does resources on it really. So you've got to depend on what you've done in school. They begin with Scrooge's lonely school days where he was often left alone during the what? Holidays, good. Sad times. AO3 connection there, guys. How can we link that to Dickens' life? How can we link that to Dickens' life? Anne-Marie, is the narrator also a ghost? No, the narrator is just a kind of detached, kind of omnipresent, omniscient type of a figure. Spot the taste. I mean, that's a great question about the Gothic. I mean, the Gothic was a mode for tapping into like universal fears. So maybe there was a universal fear about that, particularly in the context of the patriarchy. So that might be a way to start with that. But can't get sidelined with these questions. What happened to him? Okay, so he was schooled alone, wasn't he, Dickens? And he lost his education when he had to go work in the blacking factory, okay, because of his father's debt. Okay, so we can connect that, can't we? Really nice, easy link to any time we talk about school. Reminding him of his lost innocence, the isolation he experienced even as a child. Then they visit obviously Christmas celebration at Fezziwig's warehouse where Scrooge was apprenticed. Fezziwig, a generous and jovial man, hosts a lively party, emphasizing the joy that what can give to others. What is it that it can give to others? Mara, are there no marks available for using good vocab if AO4 isn't required? Essentially, Mara, for this question, you're not going to get any of those 4 AO4 marks. Only on the Shakespeare question do you get the 4 AO4 marks on this paper. So you don't need to impress with the vocab, but you still need to be sophisticated and academic in your writing. Okay? All right, cool. Will we be analysing quotes? Yes, we will. TCOM sisters, we will. Emphasising the joy that generosity, good, or employers, totally relevant, can bring to others, something Scrooge has forgotten. Okay, Ghost then shows Scrooge a painful memory of his former fiancée, Belle. Ending their engagement, she releases him because his love for money, thank you, has replaced his love for her. Scrooge is heartbroken as he watches Belle move on, eventually whatting someone else. Trace, when is Belle shown? So this is still in stave 2. That's when she is shown. Good. Marrying someone else. Thank you. Laura, Alex put you in timeout. Sad times. These visions stir deep what's in Scrooge? Good stuff. Yeah, emotions. Thank you, thank you. Do they know because how we have the most energy in the start of the exam? Yeah, maybe that's why, Noam. Yeah, maybe that's why you do AO4 at the start. Halima, no, like I said, we don't have time for the Macbeth quotes because other people are on a different stream now, but I have done lots of content on Macbeth. Maybe this CRAM needs to be longer in future to cover everything. Who begins to realize the impact of his choices on his happiness and relationships. Overwhelmed, he begs the spirit to stop, and the ghost what does the ghost do at the end? Laura, did I give you attitude? I do apologize. I wasn't trying to. Guys, lots of been put time out. Sorry to hear it. I'm not timing out anyone. I'm leaving that to my mods. Let's just get focused, man. Let's lock in. And the ghost disappears, of course. Ghost disappears. Scrooge falls back into his bed, emotionally drained, beginning to confront his past mistakes and the path his life has taken. Beginning to, okay? But he has not yet got to this point of change. How can you tell at this point? Nice one, Laura. I know you're joking. How can we tell at this point in the novel, the novella, that he has not changed fully? What does he do? Garika, do you get penalized for writing too much? It's self-penalizing because you'll run out of time, but no, otherwise. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that, buddy. What are we saying? Bell said the quote. What is it that shows that he's not ready to actually change yet? What does he say to the ghost? Okay. Teletubbies, hello. Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I want to hurry on with the plot as well. Okay. He says, enough. No more. Okay. He doesn't want any more of this learning. It's too unpleasant. And yeah, Keris tries to shove the cap onto the ghost light to block it out, alluding how he doesn't wish to see his past. He doesn't want this enlightenment. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Stay 3. Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Christmas, of course. Present. Lovely pun. We know that's a pun, don't we? The ghost is a large, joyful figure clad in a what color robe? What color robe? What color is it? Yeah, exactly. It's not red like you'd expect from Father Christmas. It is a green robe because green used to symbolize... Father Christmas used to be all green because Christmas was associated with green, symbolizing abundance, generosity. Okay, nice one, you guys. With a glowing torch that resembles a cornucopia. Okay, so again, abundance. And this is important for this idea of charitable giving. The spirit takes Scrooge through the scenes of what type of joy? Exactly, Javin. Yeah, Coke advertising was what changed it red. Yeah. Through scenes of Christmas joy. Well done. And hardship across the city, showing how people celebrate it with love and warmth, even in the face of poverty. Can you call that AO3? Yeah, it's a subtle piece of AO3 for sure. Leal, lots of love always. I will try not to time you out. Okay. First, they visit the humble home of who? Of whom, I should say. Whose home do they visit? First, they visit the humble home of Bobby, Big Bob, where the Cratchit family, despite their poverty, shares a modest but joyous meal. Scrooge is moved by the sight of whom? My guy. To be contrasted with Big Bob, we have, of course, Tiny Tim. Hee. Tiny Tim. There we go. Bob's frail, disabled son whose health is precarious. Scrooge asks if the boy will survive, and the ghost ominously responds that unless things change, he will die. This deeply affects Scrooge, who begins to feel what for the boy? It's a really important emotion. Thank you, Lara. What do we think? Who begins to feel what for the boy? So there is sympathy, is totally valid, but also affection for the boy. And this is really relevant because he becomes later a second father. Okay, so a bit of a foreshadowing. He becomes like a second father to Tiny Tim. All right. The Spirit then shows Scrooge various scenes from a mine and a lighthouse keeper to sailors at sea, all celebrating Christmas with warmth and camaraderie. Camaraderie. Okay, so this is a really nice kind of like overview, little kind of AO1, just to make reference to these things in passing, because he zooms through them and they're all celebrating Christmas, even in the face of hardship. Okay, so it's this idea that Christmas is for everyone, not just those with a lot, because, you know, a time of abundance, etc. Okay. Isn't he a bit old to be a father to someone so young? Yeah, Aki, he's not the literal father, but also in a technical sense, biologically, fathers can be quite old, even if mothers are less likely to be. Finally, the ghost reveals crucial characters, or symbols, you could even say. Thank you, guys. Ignorance and want. Nice one, Megan. 2 impoverished children hidden beneath his robe. These figures symbolize society's failings, and the ghost warns Scrooge to beware, of ignorance most of all. Okay, significance of these characters, guys. Can we make an AO3 link here? Can we make an AO3 link? Guys, sorry for the light on my face like that. I guess the ghost of Christmas past shone his enlightenment on me. Significance, AO3 significance. So we've got ignorance, lack of education, right? You are ignorant because of your poverty. And want is obviously just another word for poverty. Okay. So it's a double bind for those in poverty. And of course, it mirrors Dickens' own life, doesn't it? Yeah, you know it. All right. As the spirit fades, Scrooge is left shaken and more aware of the widespread what around him. What do you think? As the spirit fades, Scrooge is left shaken and more aware of the widespread what around him. TCOM Sisters, AO3 is socio-historical context. So referring to the life and times of the writer and the writing. Nice one, guys. Suffering around him, realizing the need for what in his life? Yeah, poverty is absolutely valid, but suffering more generally, and you're absolutely right to say change. All right, locking in. Let's go to stage 4. Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Christmas. What is it, guys? In the chat. I'm just gonna I'm gonna put it a little bit more briefly. Yet to come. YTC. Obviously, don't do that in your exam. I just ran out of space on my line because I got a bit overzealous with the word Christmas. I just love Christmas, you know. The spirit appears as a dark, foreboding figure shrouded in a long, what color robe? What color is that robe? My ghost is slaying in a long, black robe. Okay. It is silent and grim, with the outstretched hand visible, right? With the outstretched hand visible, silent and grim, representing the Grim Reaper. The Rim Reaper. Thank you, guys. The Grim Reaper. At its present fills Scrooge with dread. The ghost shows Scrooge a series of scenes that reveal the bleak what that awaits him. Yes, unbothered. Yeah, that word shrouded is quite important, isn't it? Yeah, because you can zoom in on that word for the phrasing. Cool. Keep them coming, guys. Revealing the bleak future, thank you, awaiting him if he does not change his ways. First, Scrooge witnesses the death of an unnamed man. Who could that be? And he overhears indifferent and mocking conversations about the deceased. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Businessmen discuss the dead man's what? Where could they be going? Well, it seems that no one is actually going there. Funeral. Thank you. Correct. Okay, noting that no one will attend unless lunch is provided. In a dingy area of the city, Scrooge sees people selling the deceased man's what? Minal, for AQA, AO3 on this question is worth 6 marks, so it's 20% of your overall marks. So aim for about a fifth of each paragraph on AO3. Selling of this possessions, thank you guys. Someone said effects, which is another way of expressing it, showing how little he was respected or cared for in life. The spirit then takes Scrooge to the what household? And this is going to be a nice little callback to when he first saw them for the Ghost of Christmas Present. Things have now changed at the, yes guys, Cratchit household. Like I said, I'm not in control of the timeouts. Let's focus on the lesson and no one will be timed out. Simples. Where the family is mourning the death of, who is it guys, in this imagined future? This horrifying imagined future, mourning the death of Tiny Tim. Oh no. Bob is heartbroken, but the family tries to support each other through their grief. Scrooge is deeply moved and devastated by this vision. So it's a really important insight into the theme of family. We see how families band together in the face of death rather than going it alone like Scrooge did when he lost Belle to obviously family, when he lost Little Fan, his sister, to death, when he lost his business partner Jacob Marley. He went it alone, whereas the family bands together, and that's something that he needs to learn. Okay. Finally, the ghost leads Scrooge to a neglected, what is it? Yeah, cemetery or graveyard. Nice one. And points to a grave. Baby little tiny Tim, you know it's Sophie. Okay. Bearing Scrooge's name. Horrified, Scrooge realizes that the lonely, unloved man he saw was, I'm not going to do this as a big reveal. We've all read it. It is, of course, thank you guys, himself. Daisy, could you say it is PTSD and reminds him of Fan, which is why he has such a paternal nature with him? Yeah, so that's a lovely way of connecting to another part of the novella, Daisy. Yeah, I like it. Spog, that's a horrifying take on Tiny Tim deserving it. He begs the spirit for a chance to what? To change. Exactly. Promising to embrace the what spirit? It's the whole point of this play. The Christmas spirit. And live a life of compassion and generosity. The ghost vanishes and Scrooge is left in a state of terror, hoping he can alter his future. Okay. And then finally, let's zoom through this one so we get more time on our quotes and extract. Scrooge awakens on a Christmas morning. Oh, hooray. He's managed to bend the rules, so he wasn't visited by a different ghost each night. They were all visiting him on the same night, and it is in fact Christmas morning. Whoop-de-doo. I think that's a bit of a cop-out, personally. He gets to have all of the ghosts in one night rather than each night. Doesn't seem fair. He's relieved and ecstatic to find out he has been given a... What is it? Nova, did I call it a play? My bad. Yeah, it is, of course, a novella. Given a second chance to change his ways. Thank you, guys. The once miserly man is now full of the Christmas... Whole point of this? Shariah, it's not technically a plot hole because it's deliberately changed to kind of give him a second chance. Laughing and crying with happiness at the opportunity to make amends. Scrooge immediately sets out to spread joy and generosity. He orders a large what to be delivered. Yeah, he got the 3-in-1 deal for sure. For sure. Games for Life. Could it be a question on one of the ghosts or is it unlikely? It's possible. It's possible because they have a whole chapter each. However, it's unlikely in as much as you can't refer to the rest of the novella, only the rest of that stave. So I would argue that it's less likely. Thank you, guys. It is, of course, a large turkey to be delivered to the Cratchit household and promises to assist the family, especially my guy, Tiny Tim, whom he now hopes to save. He then encounters the... Who are they, guys? Who comes round again? My favourite minor characters in the novella. The portly gentleman. Exactly, the portly gentleman who arrived in stave 1 from the previous day and surprises them with a generous what? He surprises them with what? Yes, a generous donation. Generous donation, delighting in their astonishment. Okay, he even backdates it, doesn't he? No, and that's a really interesting point. You could write in your paragraph that Scrooge only changes his ways because of the threat of his own death, but you would have to point out that he also does it for Tiny Tim. So even if it's not necessarily for the poor, it's at least for one other person other than himself. But it's a very fair point to make, Noah. Okay, Scrooge visits his nephew, Big Fred, thank you, and joins his Christmas celebration, embracing the warmth of family and connection that he had previously whatted. What had he done before? Yeah, he had rejected it. Okay, he had rejected it before. His newfound kindness and cheer surprise everyone, but they gladly welcome him into their festive gathering. Okay, so crucially, the theme of forgiveness or retribution is carried here. Also, this concept of family and the love from family being unconditional is a really valid link to make here. The following day, Scrooge treats what? Somebody very specific with unexpected benevolence. Big Bob. Thank you, guys. Big Bob. With unexpected benevolence, he raises his what? It is not his fist. No. Bob Marley, apparently, Aki. He raises his salary, well done, guys, or pay. Can you talk about Scrooge's mum? Leo, what would you say about Scrooge's mum? She's not a character in the story. And pledges to support his family, becoming like a, yes, you know it, guys, we've said it several times, second father to Tiny Tim. From that day forward, Scrooge lives true to his promise, keeping Christmas in his heart and practicing kindness, generosity, and what? Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of words you could put in this gap, but I mean, magnanimity is probably the nicest one. Magnanimity. Sorry, I had a little brain fart there. Magnanimity, which is the idea of being good and kind when you have power. Okay. You wouldn't get a question on Fred, no. Bella, it would be very unlikely to have a question. You might have an extract on Fred, but you wouldn't have a character question on Fred for sure. Okay. The novella ends by emphasizing Scrooge's complete transformation and his enduring what of goodness? Yeah. Life. Magnanimity, by the way, guys, if you missed it is goodness and kindness of those with power. Okay, so you could say, I am a magnanimous God, if you were a bit egotistical. Okay, right, there's the plot sorted. Let's jump into some big quotes now, shall we? What does retribution mean? Leah, retribution is basically getting what's coming to you. It's like karma. TCOM Sisters, can the question only revolve around Scrooge? It's likely to, because Scrooge is the only character who is in every, who's on every page of the novel, but it's likely to be exploring a theme associated with him, and you'd want to bring in some other questions. Dawn, you wouldn't get a question on Little Fan either, no, because she only appears in one stave and is barely referenced outside of that, so no. Ermab, the main character, realistically, it's only going to be about Scrooge. It could be about all three of the spirits, but you'd be unlikely to get it on any of those more minor characters. Okay, let's go. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Okay, so easy breezy. We can just talk about how massively excessive this description is. We've got this squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. What word class are those all, guys? Right, they are adjectives. Good. They are asyndetically listed. Yeah, asyndeton, which is where you don't include any ands or any other conjunctions. But what do we think about this covetous? What's covetous another word for? Yeah, it's a semantic field, Halima, definitely. It kind of establishes a semantic field there for sure. If you forget one of the words in the list, will you lose marks? Daisy, no. No, realistically, no. As long as you're not making up entire quotes. If you miss the odd word and you analyze it well, you'll still be rewarded for that. Yeah, so greedy, envious, for sure. Totally valid. Lael, welcome back. Yeah. Okay. What do we think about this kind of massive excess? We've also got the exclamation marks here. The exclamation marks in combination with the asyndetic and kind of over-the-top description. Thank you, guys. Yeah, hyperbole would be relevant here. We're supposed to really think of him as almost a caricature of the kind of industrialist, aren't we? Link it to the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, of course you could. Yeah, because covetousness is, of course, one of the deadly sins, and you can link some of those other ones potentially to like, gluttony, wrath potentially. Yeah, so you could do a little bit of fun there with those 7 deadly sins and the fact that you've got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Asyndetic, Layla, means that there's no connecting words there, so no ands. Cherry Panda, capitalism. I would say probably you were going to be more likely to be referring to industrialism, because the concept of capitalism wasn't really established by this point in history. But yeah, it was this idea of like chasing cash. But yeah, he's definitely a capitalist even before capitalism was really a thing. Caricature, because it's an overdrawn, over the top description of an industrialist. What characters could you be asked, Austin? You'd be more likely to be asked about themes rather than characters, particularly Scrooge in reference to those themes. Okay. How's it hyperbolic? Well, Alina, because it's very over the top with the 3 exclamation marks and the 7 adjectives. It's pretty extreme descriptions. Okay. Right. So a bit of guidance here. Mankind, common welfare, charity, mercy, benevolence. I mean, forbearance too. What are we told that you should be focusing on as someone with money? The focus should be. What is Marley saying there? Your focus should be on what? What do we think? Do you think we'll have the question based on a Christmas spirit or why Christmas time? Jeannie, you might have a question about like the Christmas spirit broadly, this kind of concept of like, goodwill for all people and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the focus. Was that a prediction I just made? Neymar, maybe it was. Focus should be on. The focus should be on magnanimity. Exactly. Well done for I keep doing this today. Magnanimity. Brain, come on. If you have power. Okay. What's the significance of being wealthy? Why does that matter? Why is this not a message for everyone? Why is this not a message for everyone to do good? Yeah. So this is really important. Magnanimity, Muhammad, is being good when you have power, right? Has the theme of family ever come up? Lily, I don't think so off the top of my head. But I think family is a really good theme. I think it's very relevant to the novel. They have the power, abolish the poor law, flow, exactly. It's the AO3 point here, guys. What Dickens is essentially arguing as a kind of, as a bit of a proto-capitalist himself, is he's arguing that if you have more money, right, if you make money, then you should be caring for those who have less money than you, looking after them. He's not saying, I'm going to get rid of all of my wealth and give it equally distributed amongst all people so everybody has the same. It's much more, well, if I become rich, I can make my own life really good, but I can also make life good for those really low down. I can make things a bit easier for them, okay? Yeah. LW, can you talk about possessive pronouns. Technically, those are possessive determiners, but yeah, my business, my business, my business. Yeah, so how it's a personal rule there. Dawn, asyndeton is a lack of conjunction, so it's just commas connecting it. Okay. Fezziwig, what's the importance? The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Okay. What is he saying there about charitable giving? Charitable giving. What's the point? Yeah, Hasbert, we are going to be doing a model answer in just a moment. Yeah, they certainly believed in Malthusian economics, Emma 99 for sure. Common welfare is the idea, Tio, of everybody having enough. Okay. Charitable giving. Money is not equal to happiness. Nice one, Flo. It can be a little. You don't have to be giving tons of money, because in this situation, Fezziwig only gave out a small amount of money to have this wonderful party, but it spread the joy, it spread the love. And this directly goes against what Scrooge said earlier about how we can't afford to make idle people merry. Fezziwig absolutely could make idle people merry, and it made them really happy, including Scrooge. Capacious waistcoat for Fezziwig, starry. Nice. Nice. Yeah, Godiva, that's exactly what Marley is saying. He's saying that he should have been focusing on common welfare, charity, mercy. He's saying that was his business rather than the business he did choose to pursue, which was the business of making money. Exactly, Flo. So he was more of a social reformist rather than someone wanting to overthrow the system, because the system benefited him. He was something of like a bit of a baby capitalist himself. He wanted to make money by selling his books, Another idol has displaced me, a golden one. I mean, this is a pretty obvious one. We don't need to go into much detail. Idolatry, golden, basically the idea of, worship. And this is obviously money. Scrooge is worshipping money. Dedoy. We don't need to go much further in. They were not a handsome family. This is talking about the Cratchits, but they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. Okay, so again, theme of family. It's not about what you have, it's about what you do. So for those of you asking about this point here I made, charitable giving can be a little. You don't have to give a lot to make a big difference. Okay, that's what this quotation is saying. Elizabeth, could you talk about the word displaced? So the verb displaced, showing how easily Belle was replaced by a non-human thing, for sure. Absolutely, Elizabeth. Love it. No worries, Godiva. Does Belle want Scrooge to worship her? Aki, it's a very interesting point. Yeah, I've been replaced as the idol in your life. I think that probably is just suggesting that he treated her like he worshipped her. So he was very good to her initially, I think is probably what it's suggesting. So for those of you talking about this idea of another idol, suggesting she wants to be the idol, I don't think she's saying she wants to be. I think she's suggesting that is the type of love that Scrooge was giving her before. He's now ended up kind of abandoning that and worshipping something else. Okay. This key word here, grateful. You don't have to have a lot to be grateful. Tying in again to this idea that you don't need tons. You don't need to be made rich to be made happy. You just need enough to be getting on with. Okay. Right. Ignorance. Can we use it? Successful failure. I'm not sure what the question is, but probably. Can you use these quotes in every question? Anna's World. I mean, they are very broadly relevant. Most questions will end up having some relevance for most of these. Yeah. Okay. Etta, I think, has answered your question. Eggonator, no AO4 for A Christmas Carol. Exactly. Well done. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. We've talked about this one already, haven't we? We talked about how ignorance can suggest lack of education, which hinders social mobility, right? You can't progress in society if you don't have education. If the poor are not given education, how are they ever expected to be anything other than poor? Yeah. Does this end at 9? S. No, it ends at 7. Ends at 7. So we're going to go into a practice question in a second. This girl is a want. Okay, so this is more obviously poverty. Okay, and we talked about how both of these things affected Dickens himself, which is obviously an AO3 point. Both of those affected Dickens himself. Ignorance leads to one. Yeah, for sure. Anna's World, I think I answered this question before. You can use these quotes in most questions. Realistically, they are nice and broad. Kinga, how do you include structural techniques in your paragraphs? You don't really. There's no need for you to be analyzing structure on every question. It's a bit of a myth. I did a TikTok about this the other day. Sorry, successful valiant, but wait, but everything, Mr. Everything English said we can use context only a bit. That's Freud id, talking about unconscious id in the brain for worship. You can worship money or cars or God. I don't like to speak ill of other influences, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it's just because I didn't hear the original quote, but that sounds like what is it I always call it, you guys? Garbage. Okay. Wasn't Dickens a capitalist? Jess, yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean, he pursued money. He sold his books. In fact, he created, very, very cleverly, he created a system like serialization of his novels. He put a chapter in his newspaper each publication of his novels, so that people would come back for the next newspaper. They'd have to buy the whole newspaper in order to get the next chapter of his novel. So he'd make much more than he would make by selling one individual novel as a completed one, right? So yeah, just a thought. He lay in the dark, empty house with not a man, a woman, or a child to say that he was kind to me in this or that. Okay, so obviously this is, Scrooge's influence on the world. It's not a good one. Okay. Le garbage, guys. Yeah, Neymar. Like I said, I probably just misunderstood it because I didn't think. Normally the stuff that he puts out is pretty valid. So I imagine it's just been lost in translation there. If you wanted to keep him after he was dead, the wicked old screw. Why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? Okay, wicked old screw. Natural, again, Scrooge's influence. He's not been remembered in a very good way. Right, I will honour Christmas in my heart. What does Christmas symbolise? Yeah, Naya, sorry. Interesting question. Didn't he make his books expensive so that wealthier people would get the idea and listen to the consequences and change? So it wasn't that he made his books more expensive. It's just more that that class of people were going to be reading it. Yeah. So that's fair. Would you have a question on the theme of fire, Izzy? No. Okay, so there's a few references to what Christmas symbolizes here. So there's Christian values, yeah. There is joy and family. There is generosity. Yeah, good. Okay, so Christmas becomes a broader feature, doesn't it? Christmas becomes a broader feature than simply just a setting for this novel. He kind of reinvigorated Christmas as a concept after Christmas had become less celebrated, certainly in less interesting ways. What are we saying? What have I missed? Kindness, alliteration, nope. Yeah, so for those, Umar, I probably wouldn't be talking about alliteration and plosives. So phonological features are very rare, very rarely going to be something that you can talk about in any depth. Okay. What are we saying? Alliteration. Yeah, I think I've answered that one. If I've missed any questions, let me know. Sure, someone just said something, a really interesting contextual point about Christmas. So Gina, Christmas slowly fading away during So Elizabethan was much earlier than this. So Elizabethan was like before Macbeth. That was kind of like the 16th century. But yeah. Riri, could it be how Christmas is presented? Yeah, for sure. When's the next CRAM course? The next CRAM course will be before the next exam, so it will be the Monday before that exam on the 20th. So 8 days from now. Okay, right, we're going to jump in. As good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. Good, 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 good. Hooray. Okay. So we can call that syntactic parallelism if we want to drop a pretty cool bit of terminology because it's the same structure for each of those clauses. Okay, let's have a look. Let's do this one because it's shorter. Okay, so Wombling Squid, if you have a quote without a technique, can you just use the word class? Yeah, that's a nice way of slotting in terminology for sure. Okay. Charlene Fonton, will I be doing English language? Yes, we'll be doing a CRAM before each of the exams, including English language. Okay. Gabriel, can you talk about the plosive of black and deep in that one Macbeth quote? No. Please don't talk about phonology in your exam. It's sometimes relevant. And so obviously if you've got a really good one, then go for it. But 99% of the time when I see students analysing phonology, i.e. sounds like alliteration, plosives, fricatives, sibilants, etc., it ends up just being rubbish, just not going anywhere. Okay, so here's my extract. The theme is regret. Okay, so here we have my man, Jacob Marley, as a ghost visiting Scrooge in stave 1. Alina, can you use references or do you have to use quotes? Please use quotes. Yeah. Particularly if you do, particularly because you have an extract. So use quotes from the extract. Even if you struggle to do quotes from elsewhere in the novella, you've at least got those quotes. Do you have to write a thesis statement? Well, yeah, I'll show you how to do it though. It's really easy. Okay. We'll do that in a second. Let's talk about the extract first. Business, cried the ghost, wringing its hands again. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. It held up its chain at arm's length, as if that were the cause of all its unavailing grief, and flung it heavily upon the ground again. At this time of the rolling year, the spectre said, I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never raise them to that blessed star which led a wise men to the poor abode? Were there no more poor homes to which its light could have conducted me? Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the spectre going on at this rate and began to quake exceedingly. Hear me, cried the ghost. My time is nearly gone. I will, said Scrooge, but don't be hard upon me. Don't be flowery, Jacob, pray. How is it that I appear before you in shape that you can see? I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. It was not an agreeable idea. Scrooge shivered and wiped the perspiration from his brow. That is no light part of my penance, pursued the ghost. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate, a chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer. You're always a good friend to me, said Scrooge. Thank ye. You will be haunted, resumed the ghost, by 3 spirits. Scrooge's countenance fell almost as low as the ghost's had done. Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob? He demanded in a faltering voice. Okay, so, all right. So someone asking, have you already done Romeo and Juliet? So yeah, Alex did Romeo and Juliet earlier. You can watch the recording from the link from his stream. Yes. Okay. Gavin has asked, you know how they give you the extract? You write 1 paragraph with 1 or 2 quotes from the extract, and the rest of the paragraphs are your own quotes, right? Yeah, that's a valid way of doing it for sure. Troyes, will it say where the extract is from? It sometimes does. I've seen it not do it, but it does usually give you a bit of context. Okay, so should have taken drama. I did actually take drama, odd squinter. It was my worst grade at GCSE. It was my only A. Haunts me to this very day. That's why I work really hard on my dramatic readings. Okay, so the theme, you guys, is regret. So I'm going to go in and think, okay, where in this extract am I finding references to regret, and how can I relate outwards to the rest of the play? Okay, so the fact that the ghost is wringing its hands. So I'm just going to quickly look at the ghost's body language and tone very quickly. Let's see if I've got anything else here. Okay, held up its chain at arm's length as if that were the cause of its... Okay, yep. The chain, cause of all its unavailing grief. Okay. I suffer... Ooh, hang on. That's not a body language one. Cried, the ghost, so speaking very loudly and in an upset way. Pursued the ghost, no. Procuring, no. Resumed, no. Okay, so his countenance had clearly fallen low because Scrooge's is falling almost as low as that. Is that the chance? And I hope you mentioned blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we've got some body language and tone from the ghost. Now I'm going to look at the language that the ghost actually uses. Dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. So he's saying that his business was a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of his business. He had bigger things that he should have been focusing on, such as all of those things mentioned before. All right. I suffer. Okay. Okay, so here he is showing his regret. Okay, directly expressing regret. Why did I and never do this? Okay, we've also got a religious reference to. Laurie, the question is on regret. It's up there, top right. Could you argue that Fred is Dickens's mouthpiece, or maybe Bob or Fezziwig? Mouthpiece is a fair expression, and people use it for and Inspector Calls all the time. And I think that's probably a fair way of saying it. You could say it's somewhat didactic and voiced through these characters. Yeah. Hey, it's me, Ryan LW. I'll show you about AO2 on the next slide. We're going to do a bit of writing together. Okay. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Scrooge was dismayed. So in response, dum-de-dum. Penance, that word penance there, I would probably link that to suffering. I would also link it to the blessed star, that kind of Christian imagery. I will blah blah blah. Okay, so there's a good place for me to start. So I've got two really valid points here. So in orange, I've got the kind of body language and tone, and here I've got the regret expressed. Okay, what can I link it to elsewhere in the play? Head Elf VR. Why are mods answering questions about English? Aren't they only for technical questions? The mods currently on the chat are also English specialists, so they are absolutely within their rights to be answering questions. Yeah. Okay. Manu, it's 18 seconds. Is it that delay? That's crazy. What a weird way to live. Guys, how can I link this to the rest of the play? Abdul, yeah, we're going to write a model paragraph together. That's what we're going to be looking at next. Tips to get grade 9. Aisha, go deep into the language, basically. Zoom in on linguistic choices. Okay. Mel, that would be a nice link. Yeah, totally valid link. Could you say the same for the ghost as they act as a religious mouthpiece for Dickens directly to upper class audience? Dawn, yeah, for sure. For sure. Childhood childhood is totally possible. But it's somewhat limited, so I don't think it's likely. Manisha, will there be a question on Mrs. Dilber and Old Joe? No. Okay, so this most obvious link, isn't it, is going to be to stave 5. Okay, so we can CF, which is compare. Stave 5, the retribution, or actually probably stave 4 is more relevant, where he is begging for a chance, right? He's begging the spirit. Yeah. The Haggard Winter quote about Belle. Alex, yeah, that'd be a nice one. I will honor Christmas in my heart. Okay. What about linking from this idea of what's important? So we've got a priorities shift. When do Scrooge's priorities shift? Could we link that to Belle early on with a change of priorities? The idle quote, right? Where else do priorities shift, and shift in a better way? Will there be questions about A Christmas Carol, Salem? That's exactly what we're looking at, yeah. Cleo, I'll show you how to answer on the next slide. Big Man Likes Turtles. So the 10 quotes that we've got on the previous slide that should be in your workbook if you want to download it. Those are 10 really good quotes to learn if you are struggling to think of any. When do priorities shift? Okay, so stay 5. Definitely a shift. I should talk to my clerk just now. Jasper W. I should like to talk to my clerk just. Yes, definitely, yeah. Talk to my clerk when he wants to change things in the future. I should have said something to my clerk. That's yeah, Flo, exactly, yeah. Any parting tips, Timus? We've got 20 minutes left. We're going to do some writing. Nice one, Lael. Yeah, falls to his knees, showing his repentance, turning to God. Yeah, good. So we can connect this one here. Fell to his knees, obviously with the ghost of Christmas yet to come. And we can make the Christian link there too. Totally. Okay, let's have a look at how we might write this up. Okay, so in your thesis statement, guys, in the first sentence, what do you need to do? In the chat, tell me the things that you need to make sure that you are doing in your first sentence. What do you think? What do you need to do in your first sentence? Sophie, I love that amalgamation of quotes from all the texts. How important is embedding quotes? Jasper, it's quite important. Nice one, Ebenezer. Scrooge Gaming. Answer the question, relate to the extract, relate to the rest, relate to context. Boom. Okay, so we're going to do all 3 of these in one. Okay, so we don't start with context on its own, but we need to. Let's think about the things that we need to do. In the thesis, we need to answer the question. Answer the question in miniature. Refer to the extract. Refer to the novel. And ideally, explain with context. Okay, so answer the question, refer to extract, refer to the novel, and explain with context. Okay, so the way that we put this together is we think about what from the extract summarizes basically what's going on with regret. Well, okay, we have essentially here, don't we? Our memorized intro is okay. Lila, if you've got enough themes, then yeah. Mr. G 3000, I'll show you how to kind of word it in a kind of more simple and direct way. Flo, yes, that is definitely Tiny Tim saying that one. My guy was a right murderer. Okay, so in A Christmas Carol here, we're going to answer the question. So we're going to make reference to the fact that the ghost of Bob Marley, you guys got me, the ghost of Jacob Marley acts as a kind of model or foil for Scrooge, and therefore predicts how he's going to be later with his own regret and learning from the regret. And we can talk about how this concept of retribution ties in with Dickens's own kind of idea of Christian and like Christian values and goodness, and we can pull all of that together. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. Bob Scrooge, thank you, that's his correct name. Okay, so in the extract, Dickens presents regret modeled for Scrooge by Marley in the way that he will later express it by falling to his knees, implicitly connecting the concept of retribution with the Christian values he sought to promote in a morally ailing society. Okay, So in this opening sentence, all I'm trying to do, Gavin, square brackets, anytime you change anything from a quotation, you put square brackets around it. Okay, so the original quote is fell to his knees. So I'm changing it to falling to his knees. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, in the extract, Dickens presents regret, model for Scrooge by Marley in the way that he will later express it by falling to his knees, implicitly connecting the concept of retribution with Christian values he sought to promote in a morally ailing society. Okay, so my point is, regret is here. It is also elsewhere in the novel, and Dickens is using regret as a way of teaching a religious moral message. Okay. Let's go. Refer, yeah, you use square brackets with ellipses in them for longer quotes if you're missing stuff out as well. You don't get marks explicitly, Gorika ready, for square brackets, but it is just the, it's anytime you change something from a quotation. Okay, so let's go. Let's jump in. Okay, regret in the extract is overt, with Marley demonstrating his suffering in explicit language choices and his behavior. Okay, so we're gonna do some nice embedding of a collection of quotations for AO2. Abdul, do your best to remember it, and you can paraphrase it a little bit as long as you remember the key words that you're going to analyze. That's what you do if you forget your key quote. Okay. So his behavior. Let's have a look at the behavior. The body language of wringing its hands, holding up the chain, holding up the chain. Where's my quote? Okay, so I'm using the ellipsis here. The where's it gone? Cause of its unavailing grief, of all its unavailing grief, and again, crying, show that Marley is suffering even without his explicit references to suffering and penance. Okay, regret in the extract is overt, with Marley demonstrating his suffering in explicit language choices and his behavior. Okay, so there's my AO1. I'm linking to the question. I'm talking about the extract. Then I dive into a bit of quotation. Okay, the body language of wringing its hand, holding up the chain, the cause of all its unavailing grief, and crying show that Marley is suffering even without his explicit references to suffering and penance. Themselves subtly indicating that this is a divine judgment, i.e. that he is being punished by God with this purgatory. Okay, now if we want to connect it to elsewhere in the novel, could we make a reference now to any time where Scrooge himself regrets his behavior explicitly? Yaz the one. You can ask a question. It's a little bit rhetorical and kind of flowery, but yeah, it's certainly possible. Yeah. What do we think? Can you talk about puritanical versus Victorian Christmas era? Yeah, Lael, yeah, for sure. But I would say this is more of a kind of this is more of a kind of moralistic puritanical point. Lorenzo, it's a big question. I'm happy to answer that in 10 minutes when we finish, because it's not related to this, but I will happily answer it. A springtime in the haggard winter of his life, Scrooge with... Yeah, nice one, Michelle. Scrooge's later mirroring of this regret when he refers to the... What is it? Haggard winter? To the haggard winter of his life in contrast with the spring with Belle. Okay, Scrooge's later mirroring of this regret when he refers to the haggard winter of his life in contrast with the spring of Belle also capitalizes on emotive imagery that show the extremes of consequence and regret. Okay, so Omar has said, if the extract is really bad and you've got no idea what to write about, what should you do? Omar, that will never happen, because the extract is always chosen because it is so closely linked to the theme that you've been given. It's always going to be a valuable resource for quotations. You're never going to get an extract where you go, what's the point of that? That's not telling me anything. Mohammed, this is AQA. Okay, so now that we get into the end of this paragraph, I'm going to try and make a connection to my context. Okay, Jacob Wells, will paraphrasing lose you marks? No. Yes, the one. Am I using quotations from outside the extracts in the same paragraph? Yes, I'm doing both. Okay, so I'm showing you in this paragraph how you can connect what's within the extract to broader ideas in the novel, and then go even bigger to broader ideas in society or AO3. Okay, so regret in the extract is overt, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Dickens. So this is a nice little signpost to the to the examiner. And in the examiner, as examiners, we're looking out for little signposts that people are doing the context. An easy way is just to mention the author, because the author takes you out of the text and into the context, and it's a nice little connection there. Okay. Why is there brackets? So square brackets, Halima, at any time you've changed something from within the quotation. Okay. So Dickens. Dickens contrasts the past of industrialist proto-capitalism with the brighter future of magnanimity in both of these characters as a model for the middle and upper class audience whom he hoped to instruct with his didactic novella. Boom. Okay, so proto-capitalism, Lael, is just this idea that of like capitalist ideas before capitalism became a thing. Okay. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at what we've done. So our opening thesis: in the extract, Dickens presents regret model for Scrooge by Marley in the way that he will later express it by falling to his knees, implicitly connecting the concept of retribution with the Christian values he sought to promote in a morally ailing society. Regret in the extract is overt, with Marley demonstrating his suffering in explicit language choices and his behaviour. The body language of wringing his hands, holding up the chain, the cause of all its unavailing grief, and crying show that Marley is suffering even without his explicit references to suffering and penance, themselves subtly indicating that this is a divine judgment, i.e. that he is being punished by God with this purgatory. Scrooge's later mirroring of this effect when he refers to the haggard winter of his life in contrast with the spring with Belle also capitalises on emotive imagery and shows the extremes of consequences and regret. Dickens contrasts the past of industrialist proto-capitalism with the brighter future of magnanimity in both these characters as a model for the middle and upper class audience whom he hoped to instruct with his didactic novella. Okay, so the point of this paragraph here, and I will just summarize what it is that I've done. Yeah, so the thesis is up here. The thesis where you are doing these things, okay? Tick, 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 okay? So what I've done here, my AO1, I am just, I can't annotate here, but my AO1 here, I'm referring to the word from the question and exploring it deeper. My AO2 does a few things. So I'm doing deep analysis of the extract plus connecting it to the novella as a whole. And then I'm doing my AO3 link to explain. Okay. So there is a very strong opening. Obviously, if you were able to sustain this quality over a full essay, then you would be well on your way to obviously to your happy grade 9s. Okay, guys, we've got a couple of minutes left. Lots of questions have passed by that I've been unable to answer in the time, so I'm now going to make this an opportunity for us to answer some questions that are left. Guys, we have a few minutes. I'm happy to stay on a bit longer than the end of the time, but I will answer any questions that you guys have got. Gina, can you talk about the preface? I would say no, because the preface is not part of every edition. Okay. Jess, ask me any specific words and I will explain them. Austin, I'm so pleased to hear it, buddy. Feel free to write us a review if that's how you feel about the session today. Gaming with Fran, how do you embed quotes if it's in the wrong tense? Just change anything from the context and then put it in square brackets to show that you've changed it. Shariah, do you have to be doing all of this to get a 9? Realistically, yeah. Getting a grade 9 is incredibly difficult. So getting a grade 9 should be you should be answering the question in an interesting way, digging deep into the implications, analyzing language in depth, and connecting things with explanations of kind of AO3. Thank you so much, Mason. I appreciate that, buddy. Lorenzo, yes, remind me of your question. It was a really good one. I'm happy to answer it now. Just type it again. For those of you who are heading off now, massive good luck tomorrow. You guys will absolutely smash it. Georgia, that's wicked to hear. Thank you so much, buddy. Please come to the next one as well. Okay, any more of these questions? Can you analyze the maws of kites in Macbeth? I mean, maws are like mouths. I'm not. It's not something that I've really talked about the symbolism of before. Why do you bring it up? Hasiba, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you appreciated it. Sal Sabil, how long should your answer be? I would say realistically for both of these questions, both for the Shakespeare and for the 19th century novel, if you can have a really robust paragraph, then kind of 3 or 4 really robust, detailed paragraphs where you're analysing the extract and the rest of the novel and relating it to context, as well as obviously your thesis at the start is usually enough. Okay. Would I recommend 2 wider or 2 extract? TCOM sisters, I think that's both of those are fine. You can certainly have a balance, but you're not required to have a complete balance. As long as you are referring to the rest of the novella, you can keep it mostly rooted in the extract. Equally, you can just use the extract in passing. As long as you're answering the question, then you're all good. What have I missed? Do we do DNA for lit paper 2? Sadly not. No, we don't do DNA for paper 2. We do Alan Spectacles and Blood Brothers, and the Power and Conflict and Love and Relationships anthologies. Bilal, thank you so much. Yaz the one in literature. You don't want to be using an abundance of analysis techniques, do you? Yeah, you're focusing more on the effects and the kind of writer's purposes and the impacts that those have. You don't go as deep into the kind of the technicalities of language as you might in English language, for sure. Bianca, what should you do just to pass? Realistically, just tick the boxes. Answer the question, use quotes, talk about what they mean, and try and link them to context. You don't have to be going much deeper than that to get your passing mark. Okay. Cleo, could they talk about how atmosphere is created and what quotes would they use if they can? It'd be very unlikely to talk about how atmosphere is created. That's much more of an English language question. Ebenezer Scrooge Gaming. What do you do if the question is completely unexpected and you can't think of anything to connect it? Good question. So I will just point out that the examiners are nice people. They're not trying to catch you out. And as a result, they will have a theme that all students around the country can talk about, whether they're aiming for grade 1 or whether they're aiming for grade 9. That's the first thing. Secondly, the extract is always going to be one that will have a lot of quotations that you can refer to in reference to that theme. So realistically, what I'm saying, Ebenezer, is that you're not going to end up in that situation. If you get around half marks on each question, could you get a 5? Samantha, depending on the grade boundaries, yeah. How many times do you have to refer to the whole text to be acknowledged that you completed this? Maliha, there isn't a specific requirement, but I would try and do it in more than one paragraph. Even if you're only doing it fairly briefly, you do need to be doing it at least consistently. Godiva, any tips on how to write alternative interpretations? Only do it where you've got ambiguous language. Say, we get this implication from this reading of this word, but we could also interpret it as this. I'm going to weigh them up and think that this is more likely, but also, okay? So don't do it just because you feel like you have to do an alternative interpretation, because realistically, it's not always going to be possible. MG3000, when referring to a quote, if you put your ellipses in square brackets, would it still be awarded for the extract and the whole? Yeah, of course. As long as you're not putting the square brackets and ellipses around the bits that you're then going to analyze. So keep the bits of the quotation that you are going to keep it. Okay. I'm not English. There's a very high probability I won't understand the question on the exam. It won't happen. It won't happen. So even if English is not your first language, it's deliberately designed so that it will be accessible, that anyone can understand it and answer it. Mohammed, what's the structure for a 40 marker? So for AQA, it's out of 30 or 34. So I'm not sure what exam board you're referring to. So I don't want to answer. I don't want to answer there. What have I missed? Aisha, do you analyze language techniques in a Christmas Carol? You can do if they're relevant. Yeah. Tips for this paper, Dawn. Yeah, use the extract and use it well. Use the extract as a springboard for talking. Going bigger. Yeah. Do you have to speak that sophisticated to get a grade 9? Vicky, part 2. No, you do for the Shakespeare question, where you're getting marks for AO4, but not for the second one. Right, guys. I've stayed for an extra 5 minutes or so. Hopefully that answers your key questions. I know lots of you have been messaging me on TikTok. On TikTok during this session. So if you have any further questions you want to ask me on TikTok, then just drop me a follow so that I'm able to see your message and drop me a message there, and I'll try and answer as many as possible tonight before tomorrow. Also, feel free to check out my other videos. There's loads of content on my YouTube channel already that you can zoom in on. Yeah. Sorry, guys, for not getting to all those questions, but thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully it's been valuable. Please do leave us a review if you have found it valuable and if you're feeling a bit more confident for your exam tomorrow. You guys are legends. Thank you for being nice and kind and tolerating the fact that we couldn't fit everything in. So DM me on TikTok. I'll see what I can do, guys. Lorenzo, it was the education system still using old text. Yeah, there was a guy called Michael Gove in government who decided that we should have heritage texts, which is the idea that we should have texts that are part of our proud British heritage, and those should be the ones that we study. So that's why. Okay, guys, my voice has pretty much given up the ghost, so I'm going to disappear. But thank you so much for your time, and really good luck tomorrow. You guys are going to be amazing. All right, guys, feel free to, like I said, take these questions onto TikTok, but I'm going to go now.